Is this thing on?
Are you ready, Matt?
You're listening to Box Office Bingers
with Matt Diaz and Ernesto Santos.
Good evening, folks. We have a wonderful evening's entertainment lined up for you.
We know each other. He's a friend from work.
Box Office Bingers.
And the only way that I know how to do it is to find you a bloody good dump.
He's my friend. I don't have friends. I got family. I can do this all day.
You know, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
Oh, Matthew. I am so excited, sir. We have made it. You know, that was a great sound to start out to, but I think what equally would have been better is if we had Dora, like when she finishes a mission, like, da, 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 da. We did it. Ya lo hicimos. Da, da. We watched all the things for the Oscars. We did it. Hooray!
You know what's funny is that you have kids when the first thing you thought of was like, instead of hooray for Hollywood, Dora would have been the one to really cap it off.
Hey,
not any other thing, but
don't hate it.
I'm not hating it. Just pointing it out. Man, we've been talking about this for weeks now. I mean, really since the end of the year, beginning of the year, when the nominations got dropped, we've been hard at work to finally present our Oscars predictions, our 2024 Oscars predictions episode. It's something that we really work hard for each and every year, at least for the last couple of years now, to really try to watch as much as we can that's nominated and then kind of compile all that information together and give our educated guess and predictions and kind of see the lay of the land, what the other awards were doing, all this stuff to give us a good conversation about one of the biggest nights in movies.
This is the Super Bowl for movie nerds.
Exactly. And happy to say that for the first time ever, we were able to watch every single thing that was nominated for the Oscars. That's well done for us. Like a round of applause. I wish I had a button. I don't,
but we did it. That's why I feel like Dora. We accomplished our mission well before our deadline. We gave ourselves an arbitrary deadline to try to finish it. Like, all right, well, this is the day we're gonna record it. So we just whatever we got finished by then, that's just gonna be what it is. And it's like just so happened that we were able to finish today.
Yeah, the last thing that we needed to watch was Napoleon. That dropped today, the day we're recording on March 1st on Apple TV Plus. I was literally up early in the morning so I can catch it for this recording. Again, we probably could have pushed it back a little bit, but we didn't need to. We had a mission and we did it, and I'm happy. And then it was so funny because we were talking earlier. I was like, I'm just watching, I'm just trying to stay awake to keep up with these deadlines that we put on ourselves so we could do this episode because we said we were gonna do it. Just pay attention, Matt. All of it. Just pay attention.
It's like it's nominated for this, so I guess I'm just gonna watch for that. Like,
it doesn't matter about the story. It said visual effects. Oh man. But yeah, this I'm so I know we say this each and every week. We're excited for the review that we're doing, but this is something a little bit different. This is going to have a different feel to it. We are going to be going over all 23 Oscar nominations and giving us our best guess. So then when you go to your Oscar party, maybe you can win $5 on your poll or whatever you do, or you can be the winner of the ballots. Because I'm going to try to do that as well. Every year I go to the local theater here in Orlando called the Enzian, and they have a ballot, and they have this huge gift basket. And Ernesto, I'm going to win that gift basket this year.
We were pretty close with our predictions. I feel like we got a lot of them last year. I don't remember the exact number. I think we got
neither do I.
I think maybe we had missed a handful.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, needless to say, I am super excited to have this conversation with you because we put a lot of work into it. Literally, as Ernesto's credit, I put on my Sherlock Holmes hat and I went investigating to find
every year. Never you never, and you really, like, out of all the years, sir, you really came through this year.
Yes, I would like for the final hours of us about to record and finding the last minute ones we needed. I'd like to thank Reddit. Yeah. Thank you for supplying me what we needed to make sure that we were able to complete our goal, as well as the streaming services and the theaters for supplying all that as well. It felt like a group effort that no one asked us. It's like we all worked as a team, but we didn't know we were a team.
It's like you got. It's like you guys all gave each other a virtual high five.
Like we're all about to go out for pizza later because we finished. We completed the mission, but like, who are you guys? Who's
not even talking about the shit that you watched. Just like it's like we did that thing, right? It's like you got because of me, you got to watch it, and now you're ready for the Oscars. It's like you just give each other like the Christian Bale, the nod from In the Cafe to Michael Caine. Just the knowing nod. Got you.
I know it's a different movie, but you said Michael Caine, and if you listen to our intro, he's using.
I know how he does the trick. He uses a double.
It's such an inside joke. We've been using it since we started this podcast.
Side note, I fucking love that movie. That movie's great.
It's The Prestige?
Easily
Amazing.
One of my all-time top 10.
I bet that never got nominated for an Oscar. That should have been.
I actually don't know.
We gonna look it up real quick.
Prestige, Oscar nomination.
I doubt it.
Academy Award for Cinematography, Academy Award for Production Design. Shows what kind of box office bingers we are. We don't know shit, clearly.
Yeah, it got nominated for 2 Academy Awards. Well,
duh. It's a fucking incredible movie. That's why.
That's why. All right, then. Well, I guess I just gotta put that box office bingers pin away because didn't earn that today. But we did. I got it back because we watched all.
We're not experts. We just like to watch shit. We literally will watch anything.
we have.
It's like we
if this is a test that we will watch anything, we watch so many things to leading up to this. And we also last week we also watched Madam Web and Bob Marley. So we do it all. That's why they call
we hit all ends of the spectrum.
That's right. But before we dive into our Oscars predictions, I did this last year. I feel like this is just a good omen to have, just like a good baseline. There are so many other award shows, Ernesto, leading up to the Oscars. I don't know why we have this many.
But this is what I told you. And this is kind of like my thing from the very beginning. Because I always like really paid attention to the Oscars and kind of paid attention to the Globes. Everything else for me was just kind of like never paid attention. Now I kind of pay attention to all of them.
Right.
But I don't know. I don't know why we have so many. It's just like different companies want to give out different awards. I don't know.
Yeah, and I feel like we're all kind of giving away the same thing at this point, especially when it comes to the Golden Globes and the Critics' Choice. I'm sure there are different organizations that have their own award shows. And like the Screen Actors Guild, the Producers Guild, the Writers Guild, the Directors Guild, that makes sense 100%. To me because you're singling out a specific part of the movie making process.
Or a specific person within their guild for a project they completed that year.
Right, exactly. But like the Golden Globes and the Critics just seems like pretty broad because they also cover television and they cover movies. So like, who are you to say, this needs to be there? Because the Emmys make sense because that's solely television. Correct. Oscars make sense. It's solely movies. And then you have the Golden Globes and the Critics that kind of do a little both. And right now they're competing with each other because the Golden Globes was like, it was top tier, then it wasn't. And then Critics is like, I'm going to try to sneak in there and be better than Golden Globes. And like Golden Globes like, no, we're trying to come back. And so it's been weird. But either way.
This is the one we really, the Oscars is the one we really care about.
Absolutely. But yeah, like I said, before we dive into the 2024 Oscars predictions, I just want to go over the lay of the land and showcase some of the winners from the other award shows. In previous episodes, we've already discussed the winners of the Golden Globes, the Critics' Choice Awards, and the Directors Guilds of America Awards. At the time of this recording, the Writers Guild Awards winners have not been announced. And the nominations actually just dropped, and they're not expected to. The winners are not expected to be announced until April 14th. So basically, a whole month after the Oscars, which I find a little strange. But maybe it has something to do with the writer's strike that was, last year. So, but who knows? But let's go some of the highlights of the rest of the ones. Again, we're just focusing on the movie categories. So let's go over to the Golden Globes and the drama categories. For Best Picture was Oppenheimer. For Best Actor was Cillian Murphy in Oppenheimer. And for Best Actress, we have Lily Gladstone in Killers of the Flower Moon. In the comedy categories, we have Best Picture went to Poor Things. Best Actor went to Paul Giamatti in The Holdovers. And Best Actress went to Emma Stone in Poor Things. Best Director went to Christopher Nolan in the Oppenheimer. Best Supporting Actor went to Robert Downey Jr. in Oppenheimer. Best Supporting Actress went to Divine Joy Randolph in The Holdovers. Best Animated Film went to Boy and the Heron. That is interesting compared to some of the other stuff that happened in the other award shows. Best Non-English Language, Best Picture Non-English Language went to Anatomy of a Fall, which again kind of just showcases how much the France kind of just dropped the ball on not promoting that movie to the Oscars. Instead, it's been nominated for Best Pictures, and it will not be in the international category. So we'll be discussing that further when we dive into our international part of the predictions. Best Screenplay also went to Anatomy of a Fall. That's also interesting. That's something to keep a note in when we do our predictions. Best Score went to Oppenheimer for Ludwig Göransson. Best Song went to What Was I Made For? That was a song on Barbie, sung by Billie Eilish and Phineas O'Connell. And Best Cinematic and Box Office Achievement, an award that is pointless, but we're going to say it anyway, went to Barbie. And we went on that little rant on why it was dumb of an award on that previous episode. The Critics' Choice Awards winners now. Best Picture went to Oppenheimer. Best Director went to Christopher Nolan. Best Actor went to Paul Giamatti. Best Actress went to Emma Stone. Best Supporting Actor went to Robert Downey Jr. And Best Supporting Actress went to Divine Joy Randolph. If you're sensing a pattern or you felt like I repeated myself, I did not. which is why, just to our point of like, well, you nominated and also awarded the same winners in both the critics and the Golden Globes.
It's kind of leading the way. It's just kind of you're kind of laying the base paint. You're painting a picture for us.
Absolutely, definitely a picture that's pretty clear.
Exactly.
They're painting a picture that's very clear going in. Best Animated Film went to Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Best Foreign Language Film went to Anatomy of a Fall. Best Original Screenplay went to Barbie. Best Adapted Screenplay went to American Fiction. Best Cinematography went to Oppenheimer. Best Cinematography, Editing, Visual Effects, and Score went to Oppenheimer. And then Best Original Song, I'm Just Ken, not What I Was Made For. The one that I'm Just Ken sung by Ryan Gosling won Best Song, which also provides a very interesting conversation later. Best Production Design, Costume Design, and Hair and Makeup went to Barbie. So in the critics, Barbie and Barbenheimer really swept in that award show. The Screen Actors Guild of America winners, something that happened since our last record, so we didn't really go over it, but we're going over it now. Best Performance by Cast in a Motion Picture went to Oppenheimer. Best Actor went to Cillian Murphy in Oppenheimer. Best Actress went to Lily.
I think it's Cillian Murphy.
Is it Cillian? I keep saying Cillian.
It's Cillian Murphy.
Yeah. Cillian Murphy went to so Best Actor went to Cillian Murphy in Oppenheimer. Best Actress went to Lily Gladstone in Killers of the Flower Moon. Again, Best Supporting Actor went to Robert Downey Jr. and Best Supporting Actress went to Divine Joy Randolph in The Holdovers. And Best Stunt Ensemble went to Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. I think it's important to note that we are seeing a pattern here with all these winners. It's, again, if you're keeping up, it's painting that clear picture that we're going to be discussing later. The Producers Guild Awards winners, again, another award show that happened that since our last recording we didn't talk about. We're going to be talking about it now. Outstanding Producer for Theatrical Motion Picture went to Oppenheimer. Best Producer for an Animated Theatrical Motion Picture went to Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. And Outstanding Producer of Documentary Motion Picture went to American Symphony, a documentary that is not nominated for the Oscars except for one, which is for Best Original Song. And that's something we're going to be talking about when we get to the documentary part of the categories, because this was a snub for the documentary category.
Okay.
And I've seen this documentary mainly because it was nominated and because it was snubbed, and I had time, and Ernesto calls it extra credit.
It was extra credit. You just wanted to say you literally saw everything that was nominated, and you did.
I mean,
and maybe before the Oscars, basically on what you're saying, that I'm probably going to watch it before the Oscars too. That's what it sounds like.
And honestly, I mean, we'll dive into it when we get to the documentary category. I think you should, because I actually really enjoyed that one.
Well, I'm very curious to hear your thoughts.
Yes. So that one, so it won for the Producers Guild, not nominated at all except for original song. Consider as a snub. We'll discuss further that in that category when we discuss it. Directors Guild of America Awards winners. Outstanding Director for a Theatrical Feature Film went to Christopher Nolan for Oppenheimer. Outstanding Director Achievement in a First-Time Feature Film went to Celine Song for Past Lives, which was well-deserved. And Outstanding Director Achievement in a Documentary went to Mstislav Chernov.
Mstislav Chernov, I think, is what we landed on.
Yes, I think you're right. For 20 Days in Mariupol, which was a very heart-wrenching documentary that we will be discussing in that category as well. It is nominated for Best Documentary. And then lastly, the Writers Guild Awards nominees, which again, the winners won't be announced until April 14th, 2024. But at least we'll go over the two big categories. At least we have an idea of what was at least nominated. So for Best Original Screenplay, it went to Air, Barbie, The Holdovers, May, December, and Past Lives. And for Best Adapted Screenplay, went to American Fiction, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, Killers of the Flower Moon, Naiad, and Oppenheimer. And there are a few of them that are nominated for Oscars as well. So there you go. If you've been keeping up with all of our other episodes of kind of leading into the Oscars, at least the last few that we've put out, we've been talking about some of these award shows. We've also been talking about the Oscar nominated shorts, as well as some of the other movies that we've seen leading up to this, a couple of documentaries. We talked more about those in detail in those episodes, and if we might not hit every point that we did on those episodes, go back and listen to those specifically in our What You're Watching segment, when we kind of do a deeper dive on those particular documentaries and shorts. But in here, we're kind of going to give an overview of everything, because we have a lot to discuss.
So we'll just kind of give brief points of things that we've already discussed.
Absolutely. So with that, Ernesto, let's get started with our 2024 Oscars predictions episode. Sir, I'll let you kick it off.
Ooh, Matthew, you just sprung that shit on me.
I did, because I was talking a lot and I wanted some water.
All right. So to kick it off, well, hold on, I gotta mark myself here. Yeah, you kind of put me on the spot. No, that's good.
I apologize. Take your time.
So the nominees, we're gonna start with animated short film. First is Letter to a Pig, 95 Senses, Our Uniform, Pachyderm, War is Over, inspired by the music of John and Yoko. So let's see. This one, I think I'm gonna go with 95 Senses. Only because I think that the narration by Tim Blake Nelson was done really well. He has a fantastic voiceover voice. I mean, he's a fantastic actor, but his voiceover work is so good. It's so good as well. And I think he really brought it for this one. I love the different animation styles for each sense and how that kind of correlated to the story. So just the way that they were able to incorporate everything into the animation and into the sound to make this really sad story, and it really, you were able to see his side of the story and kind of understand what it was for those last moments of his life.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like it's weird because you're kind of like, and we typically do this. We'll go over what we think should win and what we think will win, and sometimes they kind of blend in together. Yeah. And like it's weird because like the animation's going to be good, or else it wouldn't have been nominated for, or at least different or unique. So, and I feel like each one of these animated shorts offered something unique when it came to animation. So after you look at it that way, right? Okay, you guys all did the thing. You guys all gave us uniquely animated short films. So now you're kind of determining which one stands out more. And the next thing I go to after that is story. So I feel like all of those 5 nominated shorts kind of checked the box of giving us an interesting animation.
And they were all good. And they were all really good. Like past years, like there have been some shit that's like, man, why do I have to watch this? Like this is just not good. Like they were all of these were really, really. Another one that really kind of called out to me that I just thought was really creative was Our Uniform. Just I think the way that they were able to tell the story of these women wearing hijabs and what that was like, but literally using the stitching on their clothing as part of the animation was equally as creative, and I think it enhanced like the storytelling in that aspect.
Absolutely. And I feel like for me, like that, even though I don't think the story was as strong in Our Uniform as some of the other ones, it was kind of very, I don't want to say like, it was very surface level of what the story she was trying to tell in a way. I was just saying I don't know, like I get that, but I felt like maybe I was trying to get a sense of like what it was like, what it's like to be her in that, and like what is, and just how it tied to how they told the story. And I think it worked. Like there, like the point where she was like showing her hair and how it was poking out the front, poking out the back, and and like you were able to see her emotions in it while she was going through it. Yeah, and like I really that one out of all of them, that one for me impressed me the most when it came to animation, because it has like this jean texture to it, and it was all about the uniforms that they were wearing, obviously Our Uniforms, and like what that meant as growing up. And that one I really liked. It just, the story for me didn't like hit as strong as some of the other ones, especially Pachydermy was that really one dark. That one was really dark. Oh my god. Like basically her being raped by her grandfather when she was a child. Like it didn't say any of that, but like you knew it by the end. You're like, oh my god, what are we watching? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the animation again told really well. And then War is Over. I feel like that was like this year's, like the last one. Last year was like a very highly produced. Remember like the boy, the horse, the rabbit.
Oh yes.
Yeah, it was like a 30-minute short, and it told like a lovely story of a boy lost in the woods and the animals help him find home, and it won. Yes, and I did not think it should have.
That's last year. But I agree. That was last year. Yeah, it was that one was kind of. It's like, all right, is it over? All right, guess it's over now.
I feel like War is Over has the same vibe to it because it's very highly produced, but I think the message there was a little bit better, in my opinion.
And Letter to a Pig kind of hit too. I mean, there was that moment where, you know, he's reading about how this pig saved this old man's life when he was escaping from the Germans during World War II. And he was like recounting it to this elementary school about how he wrote, one of the last things he did was writing a letter to a pig, the pig that saved his life, and how that pig changed his life. And like they started laughing, and this man just went off. Yeah. And to me, that was the point where I was like, oh, like I was already paying attention, but now you've really got my attention.
Yeah, but then shortly after that scene, it lost me. Yeah. Like it was like fully invested to completely confused very quickly. And so like that one kind of loses a little bit of points for me. But to your point, like I think what hopefully will, but definitely should win is 95 Senses. That for me, like we talk about the meal and everything, this is the total package. You have probably 6 different animation styles going into this, telling this very beautiful story of like this guy kind of recounting his childhood and then later it's kind of like they kind of trick you in a way. There's a twist to the story because then you think it's an old man recounting. It's like, I don't even have a cell phone. Like, I never used one of those. And you're like, oh, old man, not using a cell phone. And then you realize, like, no, he didn't use a cell phone because he was in jail. And you're like,
not the same thing.
Not the same thing. And then you realize when he's like using taste and it's his last meal, and he's like, maybe I should have asked for ketchup. I think it's too late now. You're like, chills. Yeah. Chills, like, especially for the final moment. There was not a short that did that other than 95 Senses. So for me, my vote goes to that one. I do have a Variety article pulled up that says, like, here's what the critics might go over. I might reference reference. There, we got it. I might reference this from time to time during our predictions, and it says that War is Over, inspired by the music of John Inoco, is the favorite to win this one, which, given last year, it was the one that was highly produced and more notable, so who knows. But also 95 Senses were directed by the people who did Napoleon Dynamite, so they have recognizable names in the industry as well. So we'll see. But final answer, Ernesto, one more time.
95 Senses.
And I agree with that. Yep, 95 Senses should and hopefully will. Okay, next one. Now we're going to live nominees for live action short film. We have The After, Invincible, Night of Fortune, Red, White, and Blue, and The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar. I pretty much liked all of these. There's not really a bad one in the bunch. I feel like if there was a weaker option, for me it was kind of The After. Yeah. I feel like we had like a strong beginning, and then we kind of lost a little bit what the end was, and it felt so quick that, like, almost the first half did not really feel connected to the second half of it a little bit. Like, I mean, it wasn't and it wasn't. Invincible told a really heart-wrenching story and a very personal story from the background that we've seen. I did some little bit research on it after we were done with it, and ended up being a very personal story to the director about this guy, this kid who was kind of going through mental health, and all of a sudden he was like hanging out with friends, and then he just went to this deep depression, went to a juvenile kind of place to kind of help him with that, and then eventually runs away, steals a car, runs into the ocean, and basically commits suicide. And that's just a heart-wrenching story. Night of Fortune was kind of a fun one in a way, a little bit funny, a little bit like kind of sad as well. A man's wife passed away, and he's trying to come to terms to kind of see his wife like in the coffin and like what to say. And then he runs into this gentleman, and they have this awkward exchange in the bathroom, and then he goes and claims that he's going to go visit his wife in the same situation. Then there was no relation to him whatsoever. And then they had like this nice sweet moment at the end. So there's something nice about it, but also it felt very simple compared to this next one, which was, for me, this was the gut punch. Red, White, and Blue. It kind of led to believe throughout this short that you have this woman who has become pregnant and doesn't have enough money and nor resources in her state to have an abortion, so she has to travel through country lines to go to different states to have the abortion. So we go through this journey, and she brings her daughter along because we assume that she didn't have, there was no one there to babysit her daughter, so she had to go with her to have this procedure. She gets to the abortion clinic, and they were told her she's gonna wait a long line, and then they asked for her name and date of birth, and when we hear the date of birth, it was like 2007, and not like what we think this woman is probably like, I don't know, maybe 80s or something like that. And then the whole shift, the whole short just changed on like this, like, wait a minute, you're not pregnant, your daughter, who is probably 12 or 13, got pregnant. And then they kind of show scenes of rape in like a house break-in, and then there was a rape, and you're like, oh my god, like
really rough.
Way to drive home that message.
But I think what they did that was really effective was, like, they gave you that, they buried the lead, but they already had you on the hook in the beginning because they made it seem like it was from the viewpoint of someone who's struggling, like financially, and like can't afford to take care of it herself, and it's not available in her state. Like they were able to hit all those points even before they dropped that bombshell at the end. So it was just really effective storytelling on that point.
Absolutely. And the last one was The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar, directed by Wes Anderson, starring Benedict Cumberbatch. This one has the most star power and the most production value attached to it, and it looks fantastic. The story was fun and whimsical, and I think Wes Anderson's style really brought this story to life. I had a really fun time watching this. And it's because Red, White, and Blue was the last one that I had watched in this lineup, and so I was like, oh, it's Wes Anderson all the way, man. He really killed it. And then I saw Red, White, and Blue, and I was like, oh my god.
Like to me like, it's between Red, White, and Blue and The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar. Clearly, it's those are the two front runners. So what are you thinking, Matt?
And, yeah, well, to your point, those are the clear two front runners for me as well. And you're kind of going, and here is a kind of a sort of a lighthearted adaptation of a Roald Dahl story. And you have Wes Anderson putting his unique spin on it, and I'm not sure if it's faithful, but it's a fun adaptation of that story, and it looks fantastic, and it was acted really well. You also have Ben Kingsley in there as well. They all did a great job. So like as far as like how that looks and feels, and it was acted, that's the clear winner. But then you have Red, White, and Blue that has like this really strong message. And again, you're talking about bearing the lead, and like I went along this journey and I came out of it under a completely different person by the end of this. And like I went along this journey with them. So given that, like I had chills at the end of this. Like I was like you have those moments where you sit there and you watch the credits and you're just like,
what?
I need to sit down and process.
Yeah, and that you make a good point. So for me, I'm gonna go with I think Red, White, and Blue should win, but Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar probably will win.
I'm gonna go because I mean the topic of abortion is also very hot, like anywhere you go. So I feel like if we're gonna make a statement about that topic, now would be the time to do it when it comes to like awards history and like what was awarded, what was winning, and that's also part of this these award shows as well as like what message you want to put into the times of the award show. And so I'm gonna say should and will on Red, White, and Blue.
So let's lock it in. Red, White, and Blue. I'm gonna double down.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go with that one. But I would not be surprised if The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar gets it. I will be extremely surprised if the other three get it.
I'll be like, huh. That's exactly what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna go, would you look at that?
I don't know what they saw there. But yeah, we're locking it in Red, White,
and Blue. All right, so moving on to documentary short film, we have the ABCs of book banning, which was very self-explanatory in the title. For me, and we kind of discussed this already, where like if I'm already on your side, like you don't like, I don't think books should be banned, but I feel like this is a more nuanced issue that I did not get from the film at all. Like I'm already on your side, so give me both sides. But it felt the whole documentary just felt very one-sided. Like I would have appreciated a more nuanced conversation. But I mean, they had little kids reading books and telling them why they shouldn't be banned.
I feel like to your point with that one, it's like the message is very clear, but it wasn't hard hitting. And I feel like that was my biggest not disconnect, because to your point, I'm already on your side. I already agree with you that these books should not be banned, and that children are reading them, and they're even questioning, why are these book bans? Or why are you trying to stop us from reading these in our schools? I completely understand that. But there was a part of the storytelling tactic that you just didn't you enforce it. But diving into why are they banning these books, not the fact that these books are banned.
Yes.
like we can go online and see what books are banned, and that's basically what you told us. But I would have, to your point, I would have much rather seen why is this happening.
Yes, exactly.
And then expand on that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then moving on to the Barber of Little Rock, I thought this was a fantastic documentary short film. It kind of details how this gentleman is. He's giving out like classes on how to be a barber, but using it as an avenue to teach people how to market themselves. Like, you know, you don't want to open your own barbershop stop. You want to start working somebody else's shop, build your client list, and then open your own. And then he also was giving out loans to people who would typically be turned down at big financial institutions. I think the one example that really hit with me is this gentleman who owned a business, had an ongoing, like, this bank that he would put his deposits for his business in, and they wouldn't even loan him the money, even though he's been a loyal customer there for so long. He's actively putting money in there. And then obviously I don't know the specifics of, you know, of his credit history and stuff like that, but that's where the gentleman in this documentary, where he came in to help these people out, to give a lot of people a second chance. I thought it was before I kind of get into the rest of them, to me, this is my front runner for my pick. And then we moved to Island in Between, which kind of gives a native perspective of the issue between Taiwan and China, where China doesn't recognize Taiwan as its own individual state, where they think of it as a part of China, but kind of showing it from the aspect of somebody who's lived in those places and kind of his experience with that. And then we have The Last Repair Shop, which shows us a repair shop in LA where they fix instruments for students. I thought it was cute. It was really well produced. We kind of dove into the lives of the people who work there and the work they do and why it's so important. I thought it was really well done. Another really front runner for me is the last one we're going to talk about is 99 and WIPO. Like, I thought it was so cute just to see these two women like living out the last years of their life and like almost giving you that message to remind you of like what is important in life. Like, you know, the things that they're talking about is human connection and like the time they spend together and how that's really is what keeping them active and alive. So I thought it was really cute, really fun. Like, you know, there's one part where they're sitting down and they're watching they're watching Superbad.
Superbad.
And it was filmed by their grandson. So I think like, you know, having that connection is just beautifully done. It was really another really well done short.
Yeah, so going back to Island in Between, I feel very similar to the ABCs of book banning, where, like, I guess the way that the story was told wasn't as effective for me to like be fully invested into. Fair. So I feel like there was a point where it's just like, I'm a little bit lost in your storytelling. I kind of get what you're saying, but it's not. I'm not getting that clear picture of what your message is here. And so there's that. And then compared to the other three. Aside from the ABCs of book ban, the other three I feel like was more pretty, like, it was, I don't want to say better made, but the story was very clear what they were going for. I do think that 99 WAPO was just a fun.
It was cute. It was fun.
Like, it was cute. Like, it also felt very personal. Yes. It just felt like their grandson was like visiting, and it's such an interesting relationship because they're like the in-laws of one another. So it's like a couple got married and then it's their grandmothers that became friends and then started living with each other. And so the grandson of one of them kind of comes in and visits from time to time. And they've even talked about like, oh yeah, the family doesn't visit anymore. And you can tell that they're just kind of going about their day, just trying to make fun, like in either they're reading or watching a movie, and they said that they were acting for the camera, so they were like doing extra things they probably wouldn't be doing.
Dancing outside.
Yeah, exactly. And the funniest part is when they were like, she was like, "Did you fart? Like I smell when you farted." And it was like a long bit about farting, and it was so funny. It's like, and then they even recall like, I know that I have more. I can die at any moment, and you just gotta live for today. You gotta just take the wins, and I enjoy life, and just keep doing it until we're not doing this anymore. Yeah. Like I feel like they were ready. Like if they died in an instant, like they would have lived a happy life. Like they're very content. And there's something kind of reassuring about that, especially when you get older and you're like, I appreciate what I have, and if I leave tomorrow, I have no regrets, And that's the vibe that I was getting
Absolutely.
from that. It's a nice, sweet documentary. I really enjoyed it. The Last Repair Shop, I really enjoyed this one as well. Like you said, the repair shop in LA, one of the last. They said it was the last one. Obviously, based on the name of the documentary, but it's the only one that's basically doing this for free. And the kids can take their instruments to this repair shop, they fix it, and then it's more like a generational thing that they kind of talked about here of how this service is like, you never know who is the next musician that can be a rock star, and we were able to provide those instruments for these kids that would never have associated to be have an interest in music if we weren't repairing these instruments for them. Sure. And it was nice between hearing the stories of the people who worked at the repair shop, as well as the kids who felt inspired by music and like they want to pursue it or at least have a passion for it. And then at the very end, there's like this orchestra where like kids of today and back in the day and everyone who had benefited from the program and people who are still working at the repair shop kind of all come together and have this symphony. And it was such a well done ending for it. It kind of brought the whole story together. I really enjoyed this one as well. But the last one, and also my front runner, and I feel like a good contender of winning, is The Barber at Little Rock. That one for me tells a very important story of how like you got to stick with your community. If you have trust in your own community and the people that are within it, when everybody else says that you guys are, we're kind of abandoning you guys, like great things can come. And it's just, for me, it's like you put trust in people, and then that will be put back into the community. You give people hope who feel like they don't have a chance in this world, and they'll put that back out there. And then it just culminates into a bigger, well-formed community when a society deems that this is not, you guys are not going to be worth anything anymore. Yeah. And I feel like that, for me, that drove that message home really well. So for me, for my pick, I think should and will The Barber of Little Rock.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's a clear front runner. It's just very effective storytelling.
Absolutely. I feel like if there was a second place in there, maybe The Last Repair Shop.
I think my number 2 would be 99 WIPO. It was.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think either one would probably be a solid number 2, but definitely between those
Absolutely.
3.
Clear top
sure.
3.
Yes. Yeah. All right. So the Barber at Little Rock is our choice. All right. Moving on to best visual effects, we have The Creator, Godzilla -1, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1, in which that's not the name anymore, but they have to live with it, and Napoleon, the film we just watched today. So let's break this down a little bit. It's interesting to kind of dive into what counts, like what's visual effects, what they're kind of looking for. Is it simplicity? Is it over the top? I feel like every one of these movies offers something different when it comes to visual effects. I'll start with Napoleon because I just watched it. I feel like where it shines more in the visual effects was definitely in the action set pieces. Yeah. I mean, however you want to say about the movie, we're not going to speak about it 100%, but like the action set pieces are really Scott and how he directs action. It's still there.
Just the movie's too damn long. That's all. I'll say it. You don't want to. I'll say it. Like, we're not going to go into it, but just the movie's a little long. That's all.
the movie's like 2 hours and 40 minutes. And like Ridley Scott is known for directing long movies lately. And also with the movie, the tone was just really off for me. Like there are some moments where it felt like it's a comedy.
Yes.
And other moments where it felt like I never took him seriously, and maybe that wasn't the case at all. But I also never felt like at the end of the movie, they talked about the death toll that he had on every time he went to battle and how many people died.
Yeah, it was a title card at the end of the movie.
It never. Here we had a small technical error. We're back now, but as I was saying, the scope, the tone of the film. That's right. I was trying to remember what I was talking about. This whole thing screwed me up. The death toll that he had with his soldiers. Like at the end of the movie, they kept counting the death toll that he had, and I feel like the film Napoleon never kind of it never showcased the real impact that he had when bringing to war, because I felt like the tone was just really off about it. It wasn't until the very end when they're showing you the numbers where I was like, oh, okay, that's what they were trying to tell me in this movie, that he's like, aside from the history books, like he's known for like a lot of people dying in his battles that he has command over. But like I feel like that message wasn't as clear. So anyway, that's just part of the story. That's the issue. But as going back to the visual effects, the visual effects, I can see where they're coming from. You have like these wide, like a lot of action scenes in there that's like very war heavy, and obviously they didn't have that many people, or that like to the scale of many people that were there, and it did feel kind of seamless in a way, where I didn't feel like it felt animated or like it was like brought in there digitally. So like I can give it credit there. It's weird to think about Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 as a film that has a lot of special effects or visual effects.
Sure.
Because most of it is more stunt. It's more stunt work, right? It's less
Exactly.
about the like that to me is like that. This is why the argument comes that we should have a separate category for stunts, and maybe not arbitrarily put Mission Impossible in there for visual effects, but also hiding those effects seamlessly within a action-heavy film. Sure, we can give some credit there. I feel like the real contenders. Well, then you also have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which looks great. I feel like a Marvel movie is always in here for visual effects, but unfortunately, I don't think it never wins.
No.
I feel like it's kind of like one of those things where like we're gonna do it because the movie looks great, but Marvel, you never winning in this category.
I mean, they're great visual effects. They're absolutely fantastic.
Especially for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. That was a well-made movie, obviously from James Gunn, and it looked great. We were in space the entire time. Like, there's some great scenes in there, but like historically, Marvel movies don't win in this category. They get nominated a bunch, but they never win it. So for me, it's up to two movies: The Creator and Godzilla -1.
Yeah, those are the clear two contenders, because especially with The Creator, because just the whole world and the landscape that they created, regardless of how you feel about the movie, the most stunning thing about that movie was the visual effects, and the same thing can be said for what they did for Godzilla and Godzilla -1.
And I feel like the biggest accomplishment for both of those films is that the budget was so low for these movies. Like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 probably had a $200 million budget. I think Napoleon was also up there as well. Godzilla -1 had a $30 million budget, and The Creator had a $70 million budget.
Crazy.
Like, that's insane of how much, I think part of like the appeal here is like, look how much you were able to do with like comparatively not a lot of money when you think of other movies that have large visual effects budgets. So this one's a hard one for me to try to like nail down like which one. Like part of me was like Godzilla -1 was one of my favorite movies last year, and like last year we wanted, or 2 years ago, RRR was only nominated for one thing, and I really wanted, and it won, and I was like, I'm gonna take a gamble on it because I want that to win, to say that RRR was an award-winning film. And I feel like in this case, I want to say the same thing for Godzilla -1. It's because it's such a good movie. It was only nominated for this, and it would be just such a huge win. It was the first Godzilla movie ever to be nominated, which is crazy to think about it after all these years. But I think more, if I'm thinking about this logically, I feel like it's The Creator that's going to win it.
Yeah, I feel the exact same way. Like I really want to give it to Godzilla -1 because I think what they achieved was fantastic. Like between the monster and the city and the destruction and everything that they showcase. But the world, like The Creator, the movie's kind of, it's fine. But like the special effect, the visual effects on it were like so good, are just so good in that movie. But I'm really torn. I'm very, very torn between the two. Like
especially with like the robots look so good.
Yes,
it looks really good, and then like it looks also very seamless. You also have like the kid who also had like the head, like the part mechanic. There's just too many things in that movie that
can be ignored. You can't ignore it.
Exactly. And like for Godzilla, it's like, but look how cool this Godzilla looks. And it's like, is that all you got? Yeah, but look how cool he looks. So I think like the nerd in me feel like that Godzilla -1 should win, but the other parts of me, it's like should and will probably go to The Creator. And I'm not mad at that. I think it's a well-deserved win there.
Same. I'm going for this one. I'm gonna go with the creator.
Absolutely.
All right. So now we are going to move on to film editing. Anatomy, one of my favorites from last year, Anatomy of a Fall. I think editing played a key part in this movie, especially in how they did the storytelling when you're trying to figure out the death of her husband. The holdovers, it was good. Like it was fine. Killers of the Flower Moon. Like I don't like nothing really like that. Like so just editing wise. So we're the holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. The three that stick out to me are Anatomy of a Fall, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. Because they were all good. These are all great films.
Yeah, it's funny because you mentioned like film editing, right? Like, okay, what stands out? And the Holdovers, Holdovers is a great movie.
It's a fantastic movie.
And also well-deserved nomination for Best Picture. Don't get me, and also the other ones too. But like, editing,
it's like sure.
I mean, we cut from one scene to the next. Yeah, we did that. A lot of movies do that. I just didn't. I don't. This one I don't understand for this specific nomination for editing.
Correct.
But
same thing.
And then I agree with you. Like you went over Killers of the Flower Moon. I feel like the same. That there's not much there that I feel like it was stand out when it came to editing. Anatomy of a Fall. The editing there was really important of how they told that story.
Yes.
Because part of it was a mystery. We didn't know exactly what happened to her husband, and that's the whole point of the court case. So like the way that they delve into information that can also go into part of the script, which we'll talk about later. So I feel like we're like part of the storytelling tactic is that we're going to have more. I feel like that was more in the writing, less the editing for Anatomy of a Fall. So I would argue that our two front runners are Oppenheimer and Poor Things.
I'll give you that. I guess, but it's like how your love for Godzilla -1 it was affecting your decision. My love for Anatomy of Fall is affecting my decision in this category.
Yeah,
but I agree with you. I agree with you with Oppenheimer and Poor Things.
But I think ultimately this is going to go to Oppenheimer because if I've seen, this is one. Well, it was almost like, do you want to watch Oppenheimer for the third time, or do you want to watch everything that's nominated? And obviously, I went for watch everything that's nominated, but I really wanted to catch Oppenheimer one more time before we had this episode. Didn't get a chance to, but from what I remember, because I saw this movie, I saw this movie twice. The editing in this movie is so important.
Yes.
Of how they told that story. I feel like it's less about the script and more about the editing, because like we were getting quick snippets of like pieces of the story. We were literally watching 3 stories happening all at once.
Yes.
And how would you tell that story effectively where it makes sense? And the first time I watched it I was a little bit confused in some areas. The second time it became so clear, and I feel like it's so important of how you edit that film to make sure you get a clear vision of all 3 stories that are kind of being told right now within this 3-hour movie. So for me, the win goes to Oppenheimer.
Yeah, I agree with you. And you know, it's really funny that you mentioned that. It's before you had given me all the things that we weren't able to watch. What I had started, what I got halfway of rewatching was Oppenheimer.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
That's funny.
And even though it's 3 hours, like it's just as enjoyable as the first time I watched it.
Yeah, it is so good.
So good.
It's so good. I do like Poor Things. I feel like it's not one of those movies where like the editing wasn't as important as I can think of in other, like I see Poor Things as more of a highlight in other categories. Again, editing not as much, but I can see the appeal there for editing because there's a lot of, the movie's really weird.
Yeah.
In a lot of aspects, but I don't think it contributes to how weird it was editing wise. I think a lot of other things. So for me, should and will goes to Oppenheimer.
I'm with you. Locking it in.
Locking it in. Mm-hmm. Next, we have nominees for production design. We have Barbie, Killers of the Flower Moon, Napoleon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. And if you think about production design, and it's almost like basically, it's like how does the scene look? Is when I look at production design. How is the world being built in that? And I feel like that's very important when it comes to that. So in this particular category, I'm gonna take away Killers of the Flower Moon, and I'm going to take away Oppenheimer.
Really?
Even though I enjoyed the vibe and the atmosphere of that, Barbie, Napoleon, and Poor Things really offered something uniquely different than the other ones. And I even argue to take Napoleon out of this as well, because like we've seen recreations of the 1700s before, like, but he did it so well. I can understand the nominations. Like even when we get into costume design, those costumes look fantastic in Napoleon, and like the areas and the landscapes that they were able to go to in Napoleon was actually pretty good. But like Oppenheimer, like it's weird because like they definitely did the recreation of the Manhattan Project, and they had to recreate the desert and the homes and all that stuff. And like I feel like a lot of it though was like in courtrooms and stuff like that. So like that's not as impressive. That's where I feel like Napoleon kind of jumps up a little bit when it comes to being more impressed with the production design. Killers of the Flower Moon, it's a Western. It's I like a lot of it's outdoors, the suburban homes is like I'm not that impressed by it. So for me, what stands out the most is Barbie. Yeah. Basically recreating Barbie Land is quite incredible, and making that world come alive when you're there and make it so weirdly different. And I have the same argument for Poor Things. This whole world looks bonkers.
yes. Like this whole like this whole like Victorian futuristic world that they had built was really, really well done. And I agree with you. I think the thing is like, you have to appreciate the historical set pieces. And it's like the lengths that they went to make it accurate. You can't not appreciate it. And out of everything that Barbie's nominated for, there's a couple of categories that it's really leading in, and I agree with you. It's this one. So for this one, I'm actually going to give it to Barbie.
I'm
torn. Another one that I'm torn between.
Yeah, this one's hard. So I want to quickly look at the Variety article to see where I'm
actually floating between Barbie and Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer?
Those are my top two.
So according to the Variety predictions, they claim that the popular choice is Poor Things, which is a good argument, as I already explained. This one's really hard. Because I feel like that Poor Things is so unique. Like that is that you're building a whole new world out of that. But then also Barbie, to make that world come alive and feel different is one thing too. And also I think it's something to say about they're running out of the color pink to make this world effective. The manufacturer was running out of the color, which was kind of hilarious.
I think.
Oh, I think we might be torn on this one.
So for me, Poor Things shines. There's another category that Poor Things really shines in that really, I think, ties everything in together. There's two other categories that really shine for Poor Things. Not as much, yes, production design, but I think more in the other things. So I'm gonna lock it in for Barbie. I'm locking it in for Barbie. Oppenheimer is my number 2.
Okay, so I will do the same, because I do think that Poor Things has an advantage in other categories for sure. It's a tough one for me. I will also go Barbie as should and will, but my number 2 might be Poor Things. I think that might take it. Like,
let's see.
We'll see. So I think as far as our collective, we're saying Barbie, but not going to be surprised if Poor Things kind of takes it.
Yes.
All right. So
moving on to cinematography, we have El Conde, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. And for me, I think this is where Poor Things shines, because there was a lot of creative things that they did with the cinematography, the color, the black and white. There were certain points that we went fisheye, but it was all, how they told the story. Like, we got these wide landscape shots of these futuristic worlds that they did build. Like, you'd get wide views of the city, or you'd get like a creative transition when they were going from one city to the other during her travels. So cinematography for me played a really big part. Obviously, cinematography was big in Oppenheimer. It was a in that aspect, it was a masterpiece. When the whole screen like fills with that orange flame, and tied to the sound as well, where it was effective in the lack of sound, I think that tied together very well. Like, just To me, those are my two front runners.
I want to talk about El Conde for just a brief moment. I saw the movie. I didn't get a chance to talk about it. I know you weren't that favorable on the film.
I really wasn't.
So what's weird is that because you gave such a negative response to it, I was like, I started it and I was like, yeah, I agree. This is weird. But then I don't know, it kind of grew on me a little bit. And I think part of it was the cinematography of like, because that's something that I was looking at, right? Because that's what the nomination was for. And for me, I really enjoy when he was just flying around the city and you hear the cape just kind of flapping around and he's like, you had like these nice wide shots of him just soaring through the sky and like through the city, and like it was interesting. Not going as far as winning anything, absolutely not. But I think, and then from there I was able to get somewhat invested into the story. It kind of fell apart toward the end. I was like, all right, well that was some interesting build up, especially when like the woman, the investigator, comes in, and then that kind of just all falls apart eventually. It was an interesting movie. I didn't hate it.
I did not like it.
It was not something that I was expecting though, because I don't know why I was not expecting vampires at all in this until you said something. It's like, vampires, is that what this is about?
Sure.
Yeah, so I can see the intrigue for cinematography for El Conde, but I don't think it's going to win. I don't really see it for Killers of the Flower Moon. Again, like some of these technical awards, I just don't see it for that. It felt like it shot was pretty linear. The production design was pretty standard. It was like, I'm not seeing the love for Killers of the Flower Moon. I'm sorry. It's just that I'm just not seeing it there.
I can kind of see it. I can see it for Maestro. Like they did some very there was a lot of creative cinematography. Out of everything, that was the one I remember when we reviewed it. That was the one thing that was my one takeaway. Out of everything to enjoy was for cinematography.
Yeah, I feel like if Maestro was going to win anything, which I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think it's going to win a damn thing.
I don't think it's going to win anything either.
I don't think it's going to win anything. But if it was going to win anything, it would be this one. Because I love the cinematography in this, especially how it opened the film. Like you had like he was like in this room, and then he was going down to like the symphony area of the opera house, and like how they were following him and how it kind of tracked. I thought that was really well done, especially how they did like his the big moment of the movie where he was like when Bradley Cooper was acting his ass off and he was just like
that was a great scene.
Like he was going off, and that I thought it was shot so well. So for me, the strongest part of this movie was cinematography, but given everything else about like how it's shaping, I really don't think it's going to take it. So for me, I think the two front runners here would be Oppenheimer and Poor Things, and I feel like that Poor Things took more risks that paid off than Oppenheimer when it comes to the cinematography of it. I agree with you. We had some interesting shots, some fisheye lenses in there. They made some creative choices that I had not seen in other movies that I appreciated. Whereas in Oppenheimer, again, I see Oppenheimer stronger in other categories. I say that, and then now I'm looking back at the Critics' Choice Awards, and Oppenheimer won for cinematography, editing, visual effects, and score. So and I was going to tell you, I'm actually,
as much as I appreciate Poor Things, I just Oppenheimer is kind of like, it's the meal. It's a film that's the meal, and it's 3 hours, and it's able to keep you engaged, and a lot of that has to do with other categories that we're going to get to, but one of them primarily is the beauty of the cinematography.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna lock it in for Oppenheimer, with Poor Things being my number 2.
I feel like I should agree with you.
That's fine.
I feel like
we can go to war. We can be against each other on this one.
I feel like that Poor Things might have a slight edge over, even though nothing's telling me that Poor Things will win this, because the other categories have given it to Oppenheimer, and I feel like Oppenheimer is a good contender of sweeping this award season. But I think I might give the slight edge to Poor Things.
Ooh.
With number 2 being Oppenheimer, but secretly I want Maestro to be my number 2.
So really, Maestro's your number 2, but
Really,
Oppenheimer is your number 3.
Number 3, yeah. That's what but I do think that Oppenheimer might take it, and cause I wouldn't be surprised by that. But like, that's why I really wish I wanted to watch Oppenheimer again to kind of see it for those technicalities that I wasn't able to pick up on and I wasn't looking for in when I first saw it back in like 6 months ago. So, but for right now, I'm gonna give it a Poor Things. But so I think
who will win? Dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun. Matt
I
or
feel like
Ernesto.
Poor Things should win. I think Oppenheimer will win, but I secretly want Maestro to also win.
You have so many layers to who you want to win cinematography.
Who knew that this one was going to be the most contested?
Yeah, like out of all the categories, cinematography is the. I mean, but cinematography is so important. Like it really, it's like my heart will always go to cinematography first. Like that's my first love.
Yeah.
So it's good. This is gonna be a hard one. I'm curious who will win because either one of us is wrong, or both of us are wrong.
Yeah, I know, right? Yes. I feel like I got 3 in there, so I got to be right.
Yeah,
with that, right?
It's like I got to be able to nab one.
No, one of them. Whether the will or the should or the kind of hopeful.
Yeah. All right, so
so you say Oppenheimer, I say Poor Things.
Yes.
Okay. Moving on. Did I say this one? No. I do the next one, right?
I don't remember. You can do this one.
No. I think you did the last one. Anyway, I'll do this one.
Okay.
Nominees for costume design: Barbie, Killers of the Flower Moon, Napoleon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. I feel like this was an interesting category because they're all very different. I feel like Oppenheimer, not so much. Like this one, I don't think it's the strongest one out of the bunch here for costume design. Like it's mainly suits. It
relates the same way Napoleon and Killers of the Flower Moon. It's these historical set pieces that are being recognized for their accuracy.
Yes, and that's completely fair. And to your point, that's basically those 3 categories right there. It's being recognized for its historical accuracy. Napoleon, like I mentioned earlier, if Napoleon was gonna win anything, I feel like it would be right here. I feel like it would be in the costume design. I don't think it's gonna win anything, but I do think that if it was gonna win one, it would be in the costume design. Killers of the Flower Moon, maybe with some people from the Osage Nation. True. Getting that accuracy correct, I can see that being the appeal there. But for me, the bigger contenders are Barbie and Poor Things, with the slight edge to Poor Things.
Yeah.
Because of we have Poor Things is pulling nothing. It's pulling something out of nothing. It's
and they got you, and they got you there. And you were on. They gave us the costumes and they put it in this world, and we go, "Yep, this makes sense."
Yeah, exactly. And it's weird to say that. And like they built this world out of thin air.
Yeah,
it's not like we're recreating anything. And so I feel like I take more appreciation for that than I do with recreating historical accuracy.
Yes, because in where Barbie, they have a model to go off of what it should like. Poor Things, I think, is a testament to like really just true creativity, because they took 2 concepts and they put them together to create their own thing. And I think that's what I really appreciate about Poor Things. So I'm gonna lock it in for Poor Things for costume design.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm agreeing with you, because even with like the Critics' Choice gave costume design to Barbie, and I think that's a fair win.
Yeah.
But to your point, like you're able to pull something from Barbie, from numerous of toy lines that you're able to recreate and like give us these great costumes and like these outfits, and like it's all well done. Don't get me wrong, it helps build out the world, but Poor Things is like, it's as part of the, as kind of like with everything that it was doing throughout this whole movie with the production design and the costume design, you are literally pulling this world out of your imagination and putting it out there to make us believe where we are, wherever that is, whatever time period is, whatever. Like, I don't even know if this world is a fantasy or not. It just feels very weird. Yeah. But
they got us there.
It got us there. The costumes help with that, and I feel like that was more of a standout. I think if we're kind of like, I know the Oscars does this as well. If we like to share the awards, if we're gonna give Barbie production design, I think we give Poor Things costume design.
But I think it deserves it for costume design.
I think so as well.
But I agree. I see what you're saying, but I'm with you.
Yeah. So I will also lock it in for, I think Poor Things should win, but what might win is also Barbie. So, but locking in for Poor Things.
All right. So then moving on to makeup and hairstyling. We have Golda, Maestro, Poor Things, and Society of the Snow. This is a really hard one. I'm gonna say it's, for me, it's between. I'm gonna give you my top 3.
Okay.
Maestro, Poor Things, Society of the Snow. Those are my top 3. I think there's a little bit. Maestro has an edge because of the accuracy that they were trying to get, but Society of the Snow, what they were able to create in that world was absolutely incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Society. I'm actually quite surprised with makeup and hairstyling for Society of the Snow, because most of it there is like, it's like these kids just trapped in this very horrendous environment, and so like the hair and makeup there is more of like them looking like they have been in the freezing tundras of this mountain for years to come, and so you can see their faces like not as, you know, bright and colorful as it should be, and like frostbitten, and it looks rough, and so maybe I just convinced myself now I can see how we got there to makeup and hairstyling. Poor Things, I mean, Willem Dafoe in general, is incredible. That just is incredible. It's a character that I wasn't expecting to like really be enthralled with, and like even like the weird makeup choices for Emma Stone for her character as well, and a lot of the other characters in that movie. Golda and Maestro, it's mainly purely prosthetics for those awards, I feel. And I'm not really seeing it for Oppenheimer. This is not a strong category for Oppenheimer, in my opinion. So, and what's funny is that the Critics' Choice gave this award to Barbie, which is not part of the nominations here. So that's interesting that was up there, but it didn't get it for here. Maybe Golda took Barbie's spot.
Maybe. Probably. But
probably.
So what are you going with?
I honestly like it. I'm gonna go for Poor Things on makeup and hairstylings. I think that's if I was gonna give a second runner-up, probably Maestro, and that would be the only other category that I see it winning aside from. So I said it was only cinematography. Forgot about this one. So I feel like the work that got put into specifically Bradley Cooper as Leonard Bernstein. I mean, he looked great.
Yes.
And so, like, I wouldn't say unrecognizable, but he looked great. I mean, same for Golda, like, you know, Helen Mirren, like, not for nothing. I mean, maybe I'm being too harsh, but like, it just looks like you just made her older.
And then they put some prosthetics around her a little bit.
Yeah, it was like fine. I feel like it was fine. Yeah, I agree. I feel like with Maestro they put a little bit more into it. But also half the movie was, you know, him as younger. And I take that back. There was a lot with the nose. I know there was a lot of comments on the nose there for his character. But I think I'm going to give the edge to Poor Things. I think Willem Dafoe and how he looks, for me, that's the edge on all of them.
I agree.
Like, he looks so weird, but looks so good. So I'll put a lock in for Poor Things there.
Same thing. I will also lock it in to Poor Things. So we are moving on.
Best sound. This is a good one. The nominees for best sound. We have nominees for sound. Let's start there. The Creator, Maestro, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1, Oppenheimer, and The Zone of Interest. This is the first time we're talking about The Zone of Interest. And I think that this is an interesting nomination for that movie giving everything else about that movie, I'm actually quite surprised it wasn't nominated for Best Cinematography, because
Yes.
I thought the cinematography in that movie stood out more than anything else.
Agree. Well, I would say the two for me that stood out was cinematography and sound. So for me,
Yes.
my top two are actually for this one are going to be The Zone of Interest and Oppenheimer. I'm actually going to give it to The Zone of Interest, because I think the way they use sound as part of the storytelling, like literally we were listening to interviews where like what they shot in the house was like storyline A, and then what you're hearing is like a whole separate storyline, and just how that really played into the movie, because that's really what you were watching. Like you're enthralled into these people's lives, but what really kept you interested was all the sound that they created for this film to bring you into the world. So I'm gonna lock it in for Zone of Interest, with my number two being Oppenheimer.
Yeah, I feel like I'm gonna be with you there, because the other ones, we have The Creator. I can't really pick out any sound that stood out for me in The Creator, and
Sure.
the same goes for Mission Impossible. Maestro, the whole movie's about music, but then you would go to the score category, not the sound category. So for me, to your point, it's really up to Zone of Interest and Oppenheimer. The sounds in Oppenheimer is incredible.
Yeah.
It is like there's so many things in there, and like even there's certain scenes when it comes to, and this is more telling to the editing than anything else, but like those quick shots of like they're trying to get into the mind of Oppenheimer, and you have those like this crackling sounds of like fusion happening, and like trying to understand everything, and like that, it works very well for the movie.
Yeah.
I feel like where that is more, where it's more telling, I believe it's going to be more in the score, less of the sound of the movie. So even though I feel like the sound is very important in Oppenheimer, I feel like the score shines a little bit more than that. And then to basically everything you just said about The Zone of Interest, where it 100% is telling a completely different story than what we're seeing on screen.
100%.
Like we're seeing that these people are just having a nice suburban life, but the backdrop is, it's like a Jewish containment camp in the middle of World War II.
Yeah, next door to Auschwitz.
Right, exactly. And like it's incredible, like how, like, wait a minute, what I'm hearing is not what I'm seeing. And like you can literally put this movie, you can put this movie to black and probably listen to it, or maybe just close your eyes, and you will be probably hearing a different story throughout it. So I give the slight edge, to your point, to Zone of Interest on this one for sure.
100%.
So I also lock it in. I think it should win. What might take it, because I feel like Oppenheimer is on a hot streak, and that sometimes when a movie's on a hot streak, it's winning everything. So I feel like Oppenheimer might take it, but I feel like what should take it is a Zone of Interest.
Agreed. All right, so moving on, we're gonna be talking about original songs. So Matt,
original song.
It's time to start breaking out the music.
I know. I sent you a playlist of the original songs and highlighting some of the score. I do my best to not play a lot of it because we want to, copyright reasons. We don't get taken down, especially on YouTube. But we'll play little snippets of each one. But first, I'm gonna list them, and then we'll talk, and then we'll play them, and then we're gonna talk about it. And so we have "The Fire Inside" from the movie Flaming Hot, which, what a surprise there, in my opinion. Like you talked about how much you were like,
I like that song.
On it. The song is good. The movie itself, you remember, you watched it and then I watched it, and we both enjoyed it, but then we realized that the story wasn't completely accurate of how it was told.
Yeah, like I think for the most part, like, it doesn't bother me as much, but when there were so many inconsistencies between the movie and what actually happened, and it's like, why didn't you just tell the real story? Like, it's just as good. It didn't need to be embellished. So to me, that's what, like, kind of like put a tarnish on it.
Yeah, and then we have two from Barbie, which is "I'm Just Ken," which is the one I'm most excited about. It's such a fun song and such a very interesting part of the film. And I think they mainly just gave this nomination so Ryan Gosling has to perform it at the Oscars. Well, he didn't have to, but he agreed to. And this is going to bump up ratings for sure.
100%.
like I feel like that's about 60%, if not more, the reason why that was nominated. It never went away from the documentary American Symphony. I don't know how to pronounce that. Waxahachie?
Wahazahi,
A song for my people, which was from Killers of the Flower Moon, and again the second song from Barbie, What Was I Made For? So I'm gonna play little snippets for you since we've have the capabilities of doing that. And so the first one I'm gonna play is "The Fire Inside" by Becky G.
You got the fire inside. You got the fire inside. You're gonna hold me tight. You got the fire inside. You got the fire inside.
To see the man behind the tent for me. I'm just dead, where I see the love she sees a friend. What will it take for her to see the man behind the tent and fight for?
But someday I might. Don't tell
Every time I see your face, it's never gone away. Oh.
So there you go.
For those of you watching, you guys got a show. We were dancing.
Yeah.
We were having a good time.
You
So watch on YouTube or Spotify.
Yeah, I was trying to cut around just to get like little snippets of each song. So sorry if it felt like a little bit jumbled, but I was trying to do my best there. We're trying to get more professional when it comes to this. Is new, adding music to this, and so you guys can actually hear it as well. It's something new that we're trying out here. So we're gonna do it again a little bit. But regardless, those are just little snippets of every song. You can kind of tell what was what from that. I played "The Fire Inside" first, then it was "I'm Just Ken," then it was "What Was I Made For," then it was the song for my people, and then it was "It Never Went Away." And I feel like at the very end of the day, I feel like I saw American Symphony. This was the extra credit that Ernesto was talking about. I actually saw this documentary, and I feel like I'm gonna talk about it a little bit more when we come to our documentary part of it. But it's such a beautiful song given the context of the documentary. And you have John Baptiste, who is now a Grammy Award-winning artist, and his love for music, and it kind of gives a deep dive of him and his love for music, and then is also like at the peak of his career, winning all the Grammys and having a good time, and like also working on American Symphony, which is part of it, kind of incorporating a lot of Black music and then kind of orchestrating it into the symphony. On the backdrop of all of that, he has his wife going through cancer.
Oh,
so
wow.
So literally, like, he's going from like being this like all-star of a musician, and then literally going home and being like just a complete different mood. It was a very, very interesting documentary to watch and kind of see like how you just never know about a person's life. Like, you can think they have it all, and yet his wife is going through cancer, and then she went in remission, and 10 years later it came back.
Wow.
So
that's so sad.
it's very sad. I definitely recommend the documentary, and the song kind of reflects that, kind of for their love for each other. So it's a very sweet song. Flaming Hot Inside, it's kind of like just never giving up, and it's a nice song. I just don't think it's gonna win.
It's a good fight song.
It's a good fight song, exactly. The song for my people, it's a chant, and it's kind of doing that for 6 minutes. And as much as I mean, it could mean something as far as for other things, but for like trying to resonate with a lot of people, I don't think it's going to get there in my opinion. So it really just comes down to Barbie, and for me anyway. And I feel like my heart is saying I want I'm Just Ken to win because it's such a fun song and it's going to bring a lot of energy, and it's just the same reason for RRR. It's just a bop that like I can listen to that all day and laugh about it, and it's such an interesting part of the movie as well. But I feel like where my heart's going for I'm Just Ken, my brain is kind of going where everyone else is going, which is What Was I Made For? It was a nice, sweet song at the end of the movie, but it also has a lot to say about just like what am I doing here? It's a very depressing song.
Yeah, it is depressing.
But like it's kind of like, again, like what was I made for? Like what am I doing here? It's kind of like if you feel like you're lost and you don't know where to go, and this is kind of where that song is about. So I feel like if you're looking for a song with a message, probably What Was I Made For? But if you're looking for a fun song, it's I'm Just Ken because of how ironic it is compared to the rest of the movie. But where are your thoughts on that, Ernesto?
See, I kind of thought you were going to go with It Never Went Away, the American Symphony, just because of how it tied, how the song is effective in like kind of boosting the relevance of the documentary, like how it kind of really adds to it, and these other songs do as well. So I'm gonna go with Message. What Was I Made For? I'm gonna go with Billie Eilish. What Was I Made For? I don't really have a dog in this fight for best song, but I'm gonna go for that. That's what I'll pick for that one because that makes sense. But I am kind of with you with I'm Just Ken. But I'm kind of feeling the It Never Went Away song too. So kind of those are like really my top three, with It Never Went Away kind of being my number 2, and I'm Just Ken being my number 3.
Yeah, I'm also looking at the other awards. The Golden Globes gave it to What Was I Made For? The Critics' Choice surprisingly gave it to I'm Just Ken. So even looking at in that way of like where we're going for, Variety also predicts that the popular choice is What Was I Made For? So I feel like I'm also going to lock that in with my hopeful number 2 being I'm Just Ken. But I think realistically, it's going to go to What Was I Made For? I think the song just has a little bit more meaning than the fun I'm Just Ken. But I will be honestly pretty surprised if it did go to it, but also very delighted that it did. So anyway, moving on.
Moving on to original score. Well, hopefully we're going to get another little symphony here.
Yes, I can pull that up while you talk about that.
So the nominees for original score are American Fiction, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, Killers of the Flower Moon,
Sorry,
Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. I can definitely see it for. I mean, the Academy loves John Williams, so obviously.
Yeah, that's the big thing with that one. The Academy loves John Williams. It's a ballad. We've heard this before. I'm not saying it's not warranted, but like, and I made the argument when the nominations dropped. I'm like, Daniel Pemberton for his score on Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Seriously.
It is insane.
Yeah.
The amount of work and creativity he put into that. And I'm not saying that John Williams didn't put in the work, but like this, we've heard this before.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it should have been nominated, especially for a movie that wasn't that great. Like, at least give the nomination to a good movie.
Correct.
That went into creativity, into creating the score, which I feel like all of these other ones did, except Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. It's like, it's very simple, and I'm going to play that one first when we go down this line here. But I just didn't think it hit it, with the exception of the classic Indiana Jones score, which we've heard of countless times again.
All right, you ready?
Yeah. So here's the order that I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do Indiana Jones, then I'm gonna do Killers of the Flower Moon, then that's gonna go into Oppenheimer, Poor Things, and American Fiction. So I'm gonna play a little bit of each, and you'll kind of hear the distinction, and then we'll talk about it. All right. There you go. Hopefully you heard all that. If not, it was a weird, awkward silence for a lot of people. But yeah, like I said, the first one I played was Indiana Jones, and you can hear it was very kind of a ballad. We've heard these songs before. It was very kind of contemporary, and the Academy likes their old stuff, and they have a huge amount of respect for John Williams. And not for nothing, I'm gonna give him, if I'm gonna give him anything, this man's 91 years old. He does not need to be working, and yet he is still cranking out stuff like this. So,
and it's still great. There's nothing on it. I'm just saying, like, there are other options. There were better options out there.
Yeah, and then like we have the next one was Killers of the Flower Moon, which has like this very Western, rustic, outdoorsy feeling, and like this country feeling, which honestly it sounds really good. Like, honestly, this is my favorite part about the movie was the score, because it like feels nothing like the movie. Yeah. Like you play that score and you're like, oh well, that's from Killers of the Flower Moon. It's like, really? That? Are you sure?
Yeah.
Ludwig Garrison for Oppenheimer is just
incredible.
Like, he did an amazing job. Poor Things is that weird like
it played into the storytelling though. It really did.
It really did. And also, like, listening to the score, the first one's like down, down, meow, meow. It's like, I hated it when I watched it, because like this is very unsettling. But I think that's also part of it. It also felt very childlike. And then literally as I was pulling these, I was like, oh, this makes sense.
Oh, I get it now.
I get it. And then you have like this wild one. It was like, and it's like, it's just crazy. Like he does a fantastic job. Jerkin Frederick, I believe. And the last one you hear like the more jazz, that was American Fiction. Was also crazy that Laura Karpman also did the score for What If season 1 and 2, as well as the Marvels and Miss Marvel as well. So she's very busy with Marvel, but she also took time to do American Fiction. Now she's an Oscar-nominated composer. Some great jazz work there. I recommend listening to that score. And it sounds really well. Very, very similar to like some of the jazz we were hearing in Soul. That was pretty like stand out. And so this feels very similar to that. Even like what was that movie on Netflix? Don't Look Up. That was very like jazzy music there. But all in all, you heard the ballads, you heard all this stuff. But for me, a clear winner, it's going to Ludwig Garrison and Oppenheimer.
Yeah, Oppenheimer, clear front runner.
Yeah, I don't. It was a long-winded way of saying it's Oppenheimer, guys. It's
sorry
if you haven't already. It's a fantastic score,
and we love Ludwig Göransson.
Absolutely.
Hopefully, I pronounced that correctly. He's incredible. He's an incredible composer.
Yeah, he's also been sweeping in literally every other award show. So, yeah, he is the clear front runner, and there are reasons for it. If you haven't heard his score for Creed or heard his score for Black Panther, it is amazing. The Mandalorian, that's him too.
Yep.
Like he knows music, and it bleeds through it, and it's so good. But he's gonna win it for sure.
Absolutely.
This is kind of, if there's anything that's for certain, I feel like it's this one.
Agreed. All right, so
All right.
moving on to internet. I think it's you for this one.
Is it? Okay, I believe you. And nominees for international film, we have Oi Capitano, Perfect Days, Society of the Snow, The Teacher's Lounge, and Zone of Interest. So, the Zone of Interest, The Teacher's Lounge, Society of the Snow, we have our own separate episodes on, where that was our spoiler review of the week, which you can go check those episodes out for our deep dive into it. The other two that we did not, Ernesto, in the last week's episode, you mentioned you saw Perfect Days.
Yes.
And I'm going to dive into that a little bit. And then we also both saw Io Capitano. I believe I'm saying that wrong. But we'll also talk about that very briefly before we dive into the other one. So first one, let's talk about Perfect Days. I think this was a great movie.
It was so good, so simple. I loved how I loved it.
Very little dialogue that comes to it, and it's just very like it's simple, but like it was like love for simplicity.
Yes.
Like, and you can, and like you went on this routine with him that you also kind of appreciated. It kind of like calmed you down a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like I'm gonna wake up, I'm gonna go to work. Like, and they picked a job that feels like you should be looking down upon. It's like, oh, he's like, no one's gonna find joy in cleaning public bathrooms.
Yes.
And yet he is very content with that life. He doesn't need anything more than that. He does a job, he does it well. He respects his own job. He finds the beauty in the little things. And then he rides his bike, he visits his favorite restaurant, he goes to the bar, gets the same thing. He goes to his favorite bookshop, gets $1 book, read a new book. He has a mini book, go to the cassette. Like he's a man of simple things, and he's happy living that life. I did not like his coworker at all.
But
I
think you weren't supposed to like him. To me, he represented like the polar opposite of him, of like somebody who's so enthralled with like the day to day. Like, look at him, he stole little asshole stole his cassette tape, and gave it to that girl, and the girl thankfully gave it back to him. And then he had all these things like that could be worth so much money, but for him, it was the joy of having those things. He didn't care about the money, and like just enjoying like the beautiful like scenery and like his love for nature. Like I felt like there was a lot to appreciate with this film. I walked out of it going, hey, everything's gonna be fine. Like maybe you need to chill. Maybe you need to chill the fuck out. That's what I got from this movie.
Yeah, you make a good point, because like no matter what you're doing, it's gonna be okay. Like was there a point? Correct me if I'm wrong. Was there a point in the movie where he didn't have enough money for gas in his vehicle, so he had to sell the cassette tape to put gas in his car?
I think that's what I also got that from that.
Okay, because I was a little bit confused, because in the rest of the movie, it didn't seem like he was concerned about money.
Yeah.
So I was just a little bit confused by that. That was the one thing that just felt a little off to me. Also, I might have missed like the first, because I got in as it was starting, so I might have missed the first like maybe 2 to 5 minutes of it, but I think I got the gist. It's like he's a routine.
Yeah.
Also, this movie is great because most of it was just kind of watching him do his thing, so not a lot of dialogue where I feel like I didn't need it.
Correct. I agree.
And then the other movie we saw was Io Capitano. That was the one that was really difficult to find, but thank you, Reddit, for allowing us to find it and watch it. What were your thoughts on this movie?
This movie was intense. Like,
yeah,
it goes 0 to 60, 100. Like, what seemingly just seems like an adventure film. These two boys are gonna just trek across and whatever adventures they're gonna go on. Yeah, but they're going across some of the most dangerous places in the world, and I think they did a really good job to highlight just the dangers of like when you travel abroad and how these things can happen. But I really enjoyed it. I mean, the prison scenes were just so intense. I mean, what they had to go through to build the house, and like everything that happened on the boat was just not what I expected from this film at all.
Yeah, the bio reads that you follow a boy and his cousin who decide to leave guitar in Senegal and make their way to Europe, where they feel like they can find a better life. And for these two boys that want to start a music career, which I don't think they feel like they can do in Senegal.
No.
So they make their way through to this long trek to Europe, which they call this a contemporary odyssey. So this is considered like a fairy tale that I found really interesting. It's like this is like
of what could happen.
What could happen? Like this is the positives on it, but also along the way showcasing a lot of the negatives
of
on
what
making
could happen.
this journey.
Yeah,
right. And we definitely saw that. It says a contemporary odyssey through the dangers of the desert, horrors of the detainment centers in Libya, and the perils of the sea. I mean, and we can definitely see where there's a lot of risk and death that came through it. And at the very end, spoiler alert, they made it to their destination. At least we think we did anyway. Because we just saw the helicopters coming at sea. Technically, they're refugees, so we don't know what their next step is after that. It's not like they're going to go home to a nice mansion when they get to Europe. I'm sure they're going to deal with a whole bunch of other stuff that the film decided not to go into. But that journey was, I believe, very intense. And like from the moment where like it got you in, I got sucked in pretty early in the movie.
Yeah, agreed.
Of it being like, yeah, we're going to go on this, we shouldn't leave, but we want to have a better life for each other. We're going to leave our family. And then you see the regret, and then you just see him trekking through the desert. Then you see his friend get taken.
Oh, that was so
desert.
scary.
Like,
There's everything in the prison when they're basically like, if you don't give a number, like, you see those dead bodies? That's going to be you. Imagine telling a child, hey, you're going to die. Like, because he didn't have anything to give. So he's like, this is it. Like, you literally watch a child accept death.
What's crazy is that like the system is already unfair because they had to save up all this money so they can even start this journey. Then they needed money for the passport. They needed money to get not to prison from the officers in the bus because they realized the passports was fake. Then they needed money to get onto the transport through the desert, and then from there, if the cops find you, which they did, they will demand to take all your money, and that's the only way you're free. And then once you finally get to Libya, your destination, you're put into this detainment camp that if you don't pay, because they know that all the officers stole all your money, so they want you to make a phone call so you can take more money from your loved ones so they can wire that so you can become free. And if not, you die. In this case, he was lucky enough that instead of that, they just became slaves to do labor.
Yeah,
and luckily they were able to get free, and then like that's just a crazy journey.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of that, maybe this might be a fantasy, but it feels a lot of this rooted from real life events.
Yeah, seems that way.
to me this just showcases just like when it comes to Society of the Snow and maybe even the Zone of Interest, there's a point of historical accuracy to it. Maybe not the Zone of Interest, but you can only assume that like that's kind of how they felt when they were in in Auschwitz. But like the Teacher's Lounge was definitely a story about like the stresses of a teacher, but like the other ones, it just felt so different. Like it felt like a line between like what can happen and what's the best case scenario. And we got that in that story with El Capitano, where the other one is just like, I'm kind of losing my train of thought here. But regardless, I think all of these, so since we were given the opportunity to watch all the international feature films, were all great.
Great choices this year.
Yeah.
What are you? I'm locking it in for Society of the Snow. I think these were all fantastic films, but Society of the Snow, just the way they were able to capture you and just fully enthrall you into this film and like everything that they had to go through. I felt like they really pulled me in. Like I was in there with them. So for me, I'm locking it in for Society of the Snow. Although I think Zone of Interest might win.
Yeah, I feel like the Zone of Interest and the Society of the Snow are definitely the two front runners. I feel like secretly for me, it's Perfect Days.
Yeah, I mean, that was a beautiful film. I agree.
It was, especially toward the end. One more thing about Perfect Days. There's something about a silent performance that, if done right, can feel so compelling. And he did that. It felt so sincere. It felt real. Like it felt like he enjoyed what he was doing day to day. And at the very end, because it also tackled like with loneliness when he was with his niece, and like he enjoyed the company, but you also saw it in the movie where when something was out of balance, he didn't know what to do. Like he was freaking out. Like when his buddy like quit and he had to cover all those different toilets, he was in a disarray. He was like, I'm not doing this again. Are you crazy? Like he didn't know what to do. And like he knew that he could do this again. Like the routine disrupted. It was just chaos for him.
Yeah, and even his bad day was still like I think we were able to. I think the way they showed us is how effective. Like even on his bad day, he wasn't even like he was nowhere near compared to somebody else. Like how they would act,
Right.
being given that all that information, like having somebody quit on you on the spot, and now you've just been told, like that you have to work all day now, and you set, and he set a standard. Hey, I'm only doing this today, but the fact that he did it and he still was able to do it with a smile on his face, and still show his love and care for his job.
And then he also tackles the loneliness, especially with like his niece coming in, and then also the woman that ran the restaurant, and then maybe her ex-husband came in, and you saw them connecting, and then they awkwardly connected outside of all that. That was the one scene I didn't really care for because I just feel like kind of random to me. But regardless, the last shot of the movie with him just driving, and like he's playing his favorite song, and to me, it was so well done. If you like, you feel the happiness and the pain and the loneliness all at the same time. It's like you can feel him fighting all of those different emotions where like I like what I'm doing, but I'm so lonely, and it hurts, but also I'm content. And it's like his facial expressions through that. Again, there's something about a silence performance that it was done so well there. And that's why like secretly I feel like this is the winner for me. But logically it's not going to get there based on all the evidence from everything else. If Anatomy of a Fall was in this category,
easy.
It would have won hands down.
Yeah.
We wouldn't even have a conversation about the other ones. But because it wasn't, it does leave room for other ones to grow. I do agree with you. The front runners are The Zone of Interest and Society of the Snow. I'm going to say that, and also because it was nominated for Best Picture, I think The Zone of Interest is going to take it.
Yeah.
But I think a clear second, and would not be surprised if Society of the Snow gets it.
I'm going to be okay to be wrong because I want to give it to Society of the Snow.
But then secretly I want Perfect Day. So this is another layered one for me.
Yeah.
As like I think The Zone of Interest will win. The Society, well, actually no, maybe it's only two. I think The Zone of Interest will win, but I think Perfect Day should win.
And
that's where I'm at.
I'm Zone of Interest and Society of the Snow.
Okay, so we're locking in on The Zone of Interest. Yeah.
All right, so now moving on to documentary feature film. We have Bobby Wine, The People's President, The Eternal Memory, Four Daughters, To Kill a Tiger, and 20 Days in Mariupol. Matt, I have to say thank you because due to your detective work, the only one that we were missing was To Kill a Tiger, because 20 Days in Mariupol is available on YouTube. Four Daughters is available on VOD. I think Eternal Memory was at Paramount Plus.
Yep.
Bobby Wine is Disney Plus, and so To Kill a Tiger was the only one that we didn't have really have any access to. And I have to tell you, that is a crazy ass documentary. Like to not be available is fucking crazy. Like that is a crazy story that people can see. There's so many different layers to it. Like it is not about killing a tiger. It has nothing to do with killing a tiger.
Nothing to do with that.
It's about this man learning that in this village in the east, I believe it's in India, his daughter was at a family wedding and they had left, and how old was she? 13?
13.
She was 13 and she was raped by 3 boys. So then it turns into this whole case that they have to solve, and it really plays into the dynamics of how people on that side of the world think and how important community is. I mean, they even make it a point in the documentary to say that, sorry, let me backtrack. What the people in the community were saying was that the other 2 boys should be, I don't remember what the exact wording, what they said, but one of them, that he should marry her because of what happened. He should marry her to make her an honorable woman, because otherwise she's going to live her whole life with shame. And it's just so interesting because us here, it was clear cut. It's like, oh, they raped her. Well, they need to go to jail. Like those little boys need to go to jail. They should know that that's wrong. So it's just so interesting to see that. I mean, and this is in this day and age where this
Right.
man
Yeah, this was like
where this man had to basically go against his role in the community and like how important community is, and he had to go against his community so that he can stick up for the rightfully so, for his for his daughter who needed retribution for what happened to her. So I mean, to me, my top two is going to be between Bobby Wine and To Kill a Tiger. I'm actually going to go with To Kill a Tiger. I think it was just like I was captivated all the way through from start to finish.
Yeah, it is crazy that, I mean, that documentary was not what I was expecting at all.
It was
I mean,
intense.
they
It was
told you up
insane.
front. They told you up front what this was going to be about, and it's really a documentary about just different, like how your level of thinking and what they thought it was okay, and like that one guy who was a complete asshole throughout this whole documentary.
And he needed him. He needed him.
And he needed him too, and he did not pull through for him at all. And it's just crazy. Like for us, it's clear cut that was a rape. And this one's like, well, you see, the problem isn't that she was assaulted. The problem was that there were 3 men. So now you have to figure out which one you're going to marry, because that will make her an honorable woman again.
It's like, that's your concern.
Otherwise, we're going to shame you because you didn't marry one of them. Like, what?
That's your takeaway from this?
Exactly. And it's like, just like how people were raised, how like the different people think about different things, and it's so weird. But it's I think what this documentary did, and that's what I was going with the other one. I said I lost my train of thought. I got it back. We're back on the train. With Io Capitano, we see a glimpse of how it is in a different society.
Yes.
Like their struggles, what they go through. That was more or less of a fantasy tale. Io Capitano rooted through probably real life experiences. This is a documentary. This actually happened. And it's really interesting to see all these different documentaries to see what's going on in the world. Very similar to Bobby Wine, the People's President. You're like, who knew that was going on in a country?
Yes.
Where like that documentary for me is insane. And then 20 Days in Mariupol speaks for itself. The war in Ukraine and Russia just kind of obliterating Mariupol. It's like, that's heart-wrenching.
Yes.
Like for me personally, and then honestly the other two, it just doesn't compare. It really just doesn't compare to the other, like the Eternal Memory. This is the one out of all of them where I felt like, and I talk about American Symphony, probably could have been in here, because it tells a very similar story about love. And like the Eternal Memory, for me, the delivery, the story was there. I understood the impact about a person going through Alzheimer's and yet, also old age, but the love, she's trying to keep that love alive because you love them so much, and that memory of what they had, and doing the work to keep that every day. The delivery on that, it became repetitive, and therefore I kind of lost interest, because I got the point after 30 minutes and we just kept doing the same thing over and over again. So I feel like if we're looking for a documentary about the passion for love, you could have put American Symphony in there, which a lot of people thought that it was snubbed for this category to begin with. 4 Daughters is the one we saw on video on demand. We rented it. And this one for me was a little bit of a hard watch.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of dialogue was being put through this documentary, but the message was clear at the very end. It felt like also a very personal story. Again, it's one of those where the delivery just felt a little off.
And the story's there because it's about these 4 daughters, but 2 of them become religious extremists. Jihad, I believe they become jihadists, and it's about this family's experience with losing the 2 older daughters to this. But it's just the delivery, and a lot of it was played out as like a live action reenactment with actors. Yeah. So some of the messaging got lost in the delivery.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. And I feel like that's the biggest downfall with the 2. So for me, it's really down to Bobby Wine, To Kill a Tiger, and 20 Days in Mariupol. And for me, I feel like all these 3 are very strong contenders. I would be happy to win any one of them. I feel like this is where like I got to put on my Oscars hat and feel like, what are they going to probably pick? I think they're probably going to pick 20 Days in Mariupol.
I agree. I agree. I think they're going to pick, just especially with the war in Ukraine being such a big thing.
Yeah.
Being so relevant.
And not for nothing, like the director for this was also the filmmaker who was in there.
Yeah.
Like, and he was like, they were telling him is like, this isn't like, you could leave at any time. And he's like, this is one of the most important times in history. I'm not leaving. I have to film. People are like, the people over there saying stop filming, like the cops and everything. Like, you don't film this. And he's like, I'm not putting this camera down.
Yeah.
As like, I'm going to film this. And the people there, like, you have to show them what's happening here because this is an atrocity.
That's a fair point.
This is a dehumanization of like this whole city, this whole town. Like it's just heart-wrenching because you also see like dead children on the street. It's like this one out of all of them was very hard to watch. But out of all of them, this was the most hard to watch because it's just in the midst of war. Whereas To Kill a Tiger was very, situational. And then for Bobby Wine, that was another one that was also like some hard-hitting stuff there. So for me, it's like, I feel like 20 Days of Mariupol will probably win. My opinion, which should win, probably Bobby Wine, because I think that one had a very strong message, but also the power through people and music and like a country that's like claiming the democracy, but it's not. It's very unjust, and like you see them fighting through that, and they're just kind of beaten down, but yet through music and through hope, we're gonna keep trying to make this a better place of Uganda. I'm pretty sure it's Uganda. And so, yeah, that's for me. But each one of those, 3 powerful documentaries for sure.
So I agree with you. So I'm going to lock it in also for 20 Days of Mariupol, but my number 2 is going to be To Kill a Tiger.
Yeah, and I feel like my number 2 is going to be Bobby Wine.
All right.
There you go. Moving on to... Ooh, this one's a good one. Nominees for animated feature film. We have The Boy and the Heron, Elemental, Nimona, Robot Dreams, and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Robot Dreams was the one that was the difficult find. And again, thank you to the people of Reddit for leading us to where we need to go to find it. Now, before we dive into the other ones, Ernesto, your thoughts on Robot Dreams?
It was fine. I think it shared a very similar sentiment to Perfect Days, not on level, but as far as nonverbal storytelling. I thought it did a good job in that. The animation was cool, but it was fine. It was a cute movie.
Yeah. I feel like the animation isn't the standout in this particular film.
Yeah.
I feel like the fact that this movie ran for 90 minutes and not spoken a word of dialogue. I feel like that's the more appealing aspect to it, but also tell a very compelling story within this about loneliness and this dog who buys a robot, and then for whatever reason, weirdly, the robot's stuck in the beach and the beach is closed and he can't get there through the fall, so like he's missing someone that he had this companionship with, and it was interesting to say the least. The story was there. The idea of what it is was stronger than the animation and the story itself.
Agreed.
So then you look at like what could have been there. I know we talked about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem kind of filling in those shoes to be a film, maybe not story-wise, because it's more meant for children, even though we enjoy the story. But that one is more, the animation was definitely there for the Turtles movie, Ninja Turtles movie. But I think this one was more, for my opinion, more appreciated for telling a more, like a very compelling story, a non-verbal compelling story with unique animation attached to it.
Agreed.
We talked about Nimona in previous episodes of how well this was, again, very interesting animation and told a great story. And I feel like Elemental told a fantastic story with also great animation. All of these movies were uniquely animated. But weirdly enough, it comes down to 2, unfortunately. Because I do like all of these. Maybe Robot Dreams, maybe not. But like I appreciate the nomination there. And I love Elemental, and I thought Nimona was great. But realistically, it comes down to 2 movies. It comes down to Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which literally transcends in every dimension of animation.
Yes.
And then you have The Boy and the Heron, which is kind of a love letter to Hayao Miyazaki and his work in Studio Ghibli, and telling a kind of interesting story, confusing in my opinion. But the animation was done so well, and so I would say like very clean, very crisp animation. But the story wasn't as strong as I wanted it to be. So with all of that, even though I think the two front runners, it really depends, because they're kind of very similar to John Williams, where like we're gonna respect the creator and maybe give him the award for The Boy and the Heron. It did win at the Golden Globes, The Boy and the Heron, but the Critics' Choice gave it to Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, as well as the Producers Guild gave it to Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. So, with all that being said, my vote's going to Spider-Man.
Yeah, I am also locking it in for Spider-Man. And it's clear. It's clearly between those two. Although my number one is Spider-Man, but my number two would be Elemental. Like, I just loved Elemental. Was just such a surprise, and I think like it was a callback to like what Pixar does best. This world building that they do. I mean, the design of the world that they built was just so interesting. Like I was all in on it. So I'm gonna pick Spider-Man with Elemental as my number two.
I will agree with you on both fronts, but I think as far as like what the Oscars are probably looking at, the number two choice is probably The Boy and the Heron. But me personally, my number two choice is Elemental. But for me, there's no denying, there's no movie out there that compares to Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Agreed.
It's a clear front runner. I will be a little bit disappointed if it ends up going to The Boy and the Heron. Because I just feel like it wasn't as strong, and he told a really powerful story within it's a Spider-Man movie, and it's the storytelling there is unbelievable. The only knock, and we talked about this in our review, was that it's a part 1 to a part 2 story. So like it didn't have an ending. It was a cliffhanger, but the animation in that is just wild.
So beautiful,
so good. You can't ignore that. And like when you have like 4 or 5 different animation styles primarily in one movie, like you have my vote, man. It's there. And also it's Spider-Man. We're nerds. We love it.
All for it. So Spider-Man, we were locking it in. All right, so we are now moving on to adapted screenplay. And we have American Fiction, Barbie, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, and The Zone of Interest. All we've kind of talked about here and there throughout.
This one's a tough one.
Yeah, it is. So let me see. What would I take out?
Yeah, let's start there.
I want to take out The Zone of Interest.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That's a fair one to take out.
Let's see.
If I was to take out another one, well, they're all pretty good actually. I would take out Barbie because I don't think that's fairly. I think that's not a fair competition.
Okay, because it's adapted from the, like really
the doll.
Yeah, like really it's original because it's like
it's an original.
The Barbie's not original, but this is an original story that you wrote for this.
It's so silly because it's like if it's not even based off a comic book, it's based off a toy.
Yes.
Like, how can you say that? You're like, it's an adapted screenplay because it's based off of what? Of the animated cartoons they put out? Like, what are you talking about? This is original story. It's not adapted. So I feel like this movie was unfairly placed. Maybe just to give it an award because I feel like it should be an original story. It's not that adapted off of anything. Like adapted based off of other written things, not a toy.
So for me, okay, my top 2, American Fiction and Oppenheimer, I'm going to give it to Oppenheimer. I think they crafted I think they both crafted a really well story, but I think nailing the historical significance of Oppenheimer and his, and what he did for our world and the significance of it all really hit home in how he crafted and told the story. So I'm going to give it, I'm locking it in for Oppenheimer for adapted screenplay.
Okay, so I'm gonna give Oppenheimer my number 2 because I do agree with you. It's a very complicated story, and for Christopher Nolan to kind of put that on the screen and do it very well, I think it's up there. I was gonna give the edge to Poor Things, but I just don't. Maybe I don't think it's quite there. Even though I did like the structure of that movie as well, but I'm actually gonna give it to American Fiction.
Yeah,
that's my number think 2. That one of the strongest things about that movie, and one of the biggest appeal about that movie, is the writing.
I agree.
It's written so well, and it tells a great story within it, and it's also based off of a book too. So yeah, I think I'm going to give the slight edge over to American Fiction. It did also win at the Critics' Choice, so I think it has a slight edge there. Was it also nominated? It was also nominated. And it's funny enough, the only movies that were nominated for the Writers Guild that's on here is American Fiction and Oppenheimer. the other 3 are like, so again, the adapt for the Writers Guild is American Fiction, Are You There, God, It's Me, Margaret, Killers of Flower Moon, Naiad, and Oppenheimer. And so instead of Naiad, Killers of Flower Moon, and Are You There, It's Me, Margaret, they chose Barbie, Poor Things, in the Zone of Interest. That's very different.
Yes, very different.
To our point, if the writers are saying that American Fiction and Oppenheimer are clear front runners, then that's going to be our top choices as well. So there's some validity there where we're talking about. But I think it's going to decide it's going to go to, from my opinion, I think American Fiction is my first choice, and it probably will win. What might win is Oppenheimer. So I'm going to go with American Fiction, just locking that down.
I'm going to lock it for, we're going to, I guess we're going to battle again, because
Okay.
I'm locking it in for Oppenheimer. Although, like, my love is for American Fiction. I just think that Oppenheimer is going to win.
Okay, fair enough.
Fair enough. All right, so now we're moving on.
Moving on to nominees for original screenplay. This one's going to be a tough one. We have Anatomy of a Fall, The Holdovers, Maestro, May December, and Past Lives. May December, a lot of people feel like it got snubbed in a lot of different categories. I disagree. The movie was interesting. I definitely think the script was the strongest part about it, but it's not going to win. Maestro, also not there. I don't think I was very confused with the script, actually. To me, Maestro, the script was not his strongest point. The Holdovers, I enjoyed that movie.
Damn, so good.
It's so good. It's so weird because, like, I like the story there, but it's hard to compare it to other things in this category when it comes to the script. For me, it really goes down to 2, and this is a hard choice: Anatomy of a Fall and Past Lives.
Yeah, this is a rough one for me.
Yeah. That's one I do not know where it will go. If I'm looking at the other awards, original screenplay went to Barbie at the Critics' Choice. Look at that.
Oh, look, so different people looking at the same thing.
Yes, exactly. And then for the Golden Globes, the best screenplay, which doesn't differentiate between original or adapted, but the Golden Globes gave it to Anatomy of a Fall, which is warranted.
I think that was one of my favorite for last year. I loved Past Lives, and it was one of my top, but Anatomy of a Fall was just such a well-crafted narrative that you have to appreciate it. And so I'm gonna lock it in. I'm locking it in for Anatomy of a Fall.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna agree with you because I don't think it's gonna get it. I don't remember if it was nominated for editing. There was one of the categories where we said, yeah, it was nominated for editing, and we felt like Oppenheimer was a better choice for editing. But I feel like how you craft a story with the words and how you craft a story visually with the editing are slightly two different things, but also very similar in a way. So if we're giving editing to Oppenheimer, which I think it's better served there as the win, I agree with you. Anatomy of a Fall is all on the words that are said.
Correct.
Even though Past Lives is like
on the same level, but Anatomy of a Fall is just a little bit it's got a little bit more polish on it. That's all.
Yeah. So locking it in for Anatomy of a Fall is our number 1 choice, and then obviously Past Lives is our number 2.
All right. So then we are going to move on to actor in a supporting role. We're getting down to the nitty gritty, getting down to the last few of them. So actor in a supporting role: Sterling K. Brown in American Fiction, Robert De Niro in Killers of the Flower Moon, Robert Downey Jr. in Oppenheimer, Ryan Gosling in Barbie, and Mark Ruffalo in Barbie. All of these were fantastic.
Poor Things.
Oh, what did I say?
You said Barbie.
Excuse me. Mark Ruffalo in Poor Things. That's what I meant. Yeah, all of these were fantastic performances. But I think the edge obviously goes to Robert Downey Jr. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, his role in that film was so crucial in how the narrative was told. I think he just did a fantastic job. So I'm locking it in for RDJ.
Yeah, I feel like there are certain categories that are just a lock, and this year the actor in a supporting role, an actress on a supporting role, are pretty much at a deadlock at this point of who's going to win. It's gonna be Robert Downey Jr. in Oppenheimer. I called this when I saw the movie.
Yeah.
I was like, that man just won an Oscar.
Yep.
Because that performance was incredible. I was never more certain about an award at that early on than after I saw that performance.
Absolutely.
And also this is like the respect. This is one of those legacy awards as well for Robert Downey Jr. as well. Like he got recognized for Chaplin a couple years back, and then he's been playing Iron Man for so long and such a cultural icon, and then come back and make this film shortly after his run on Iron Man in the Marvel movies, and come back in a big bad way. And I remember watching an interview of Robert Downey Jr. talking about working with Christopher Nolan. He's like, in order to make this work, you're going to have to go to a place you've never been before as far as acting wise. And he pulled this out, and it is just incredible. He is one of the standouts acting wise in Oppenheimer. That being said, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing with you.
Not to discredit any of the other performances that were there. Honestly, I didn't really, I thought Robert De Niro was fine in it. I feel like that's one of those legacy noms, just like John Williams. Everyone likes Robert De Niro. He's been nominated for years on many different things. This was a very popular movie for the award season this year. I just don't see it. Sterling K. Brown, well-deserved Oscar nomination, just doesn't compete to the level of Robert Downey Jr. I loved Mark Ruffalo in Poor Things. He did a fantastic job in that movie. I think the nomination's well-deserved. Honestly, I think you should take away Robert De Niro and put in Willem Dafoe, because he did a phenomenal job as well in Poor Things as well. I think if it was going to compete with anybody, it's Ryan Gosling and Barbie. He did a funny, very standout performance, and it's weird because he was the one that stood out the most in the Barbie movie, and there was the whole movie was about how much we were ignoring Ken, but yet Ryan Gosling just put something in there that made everyone love his character.
But you should appreciate that, because he played the role that you wanted him to play so well that he was nominated for. And it's not
absolutely,
and it's not meant, the people are like, oh, well, it's ironic. No, he did his job as an actor. He took the role you gave him. He took it seriously, and he gave you the performance that this film needed, and that's why it's warranted for the nomination.
Yeah. So if anybody's gonna upset Robert Downey Jr., which is nobody.
No.
But if I was gonna give a number 2, it would probably be Ryan Gosling.
Yeah, like Robert Downey Jr. is winning, and then Ryan Gosling's maybe 5 laps behind him. but not in a bad way. It's just that Robert Downey Jr. is that performance is unmatched in this category.
Absolutely.
These were all fantastic performances, but that one really takes the cake.
Yep, and he's been winning. He's been sweeping. So who am I to say that? It's the same effect that came last year. Ke Huy Quan won every award. Who's gonna win supporting actor? It's gonna be Ke Huy Quan.
Yeah, exactly.
Same thing here. Robert Downey Jr. is gonna take it easily.
All right, so now we are going to move on to.
I think I'm saying this right. Yeah, you said that one, or did I say that? No, you said this.
I said this one. You're
doing
this one.
Yeah, so my bad.
Here you go.
Nominees for actress in a supporting role, we have Emily Blunt in Oppenheimer, Danielle Brooks in The Color Purple, America Ferrera in Barbie, Jodie Foster in Nyad, and Divine Joy Randolph in The Holdovers. I think everyone did a phenomenal job. I think Nyad was the sleeper hit for us. It was the movie that's why is this movie getting nominated? And all of a sudden we watch it and we're like, damn, that's a really good movie. That's why. And you're like, wow, that's a fantastic film. Jodie Foster earned that nomination. I felt like I thought it was gonna be one of those where oh, Jodie Foster, they're just doing it because they love her. And then you watch the movie, it's like, nope. Well deserved.
She was great.
100%. Danielle Brooks, I feel like it's one of the weaker options in this movie, but I did like her performance in The Color Purple. Ernesto, I don't think we talked about it yet. Did you watch the movie?
Of course, I did. I didn't get a chance to bring it up, but yes, I did get to watch it. I enjoyed it. The movie was fine. The music was good, but I agree with you. But to me, it's a clear winner. Divine Joy Randolph, like
Absolutely.
for the holdover. She was like, I mean, they were arguably the best thing about those movies, but damn. She really sold that role, and you could tell she gave her all. It was just the way she played it, and like just the history. And we dove in a lot to it, and when we did our review for the holdovers, it's a movie that is 100% worth your time, especially to see Divine Joyce Randolph's performance of it. She should win. She should absolutely win this award.
Yeah, and I feel like, I mean, I also enjoyed Emily Blunt's performance in here. I would arguably say that maybe Florence Pugh, if anybody from Oppenheimer, might have been a little bit stronger in this category, but was not nominated. I did still like Emily Blunt's performance, but amongst of everything else that's going on in this movie, she does get a little bit lost in the shuffle there. I feel like your two standouts for me is America Ferrera, primarily for her iconic scene or in Barbie of her kind of like explaining the troubles of being a woman and like how hard it is, and that's probably what got her the nomination in the first place. But I really liked her in the movie for everything else that she did. But it's a clear front runner. It's a clear winner. It's Divine Joy Randolph. Look at the facts. They're sweeping in every award show. She's taking it. She's going to take the Oscar. Well deserved. She killed it in that movie. I
wouldn't be surprised if America Ferrera wins just for that monologue.
That would be an upset that I
It
was
would be
not
an upset.
expecting.
It would be an upset. But I wouldn't be like totally surprised.
Sure. I mean, that's fair. But I think we're going to lock it in for Divine Joy Randolph and the holdovers.
Correct.
But our number 2 is going to be America Ferrera.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So now we are moving over to, and I think that I am reading this one.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know why we keep losing track.
I'm sure somebody who's listening to it will be like, "No, dummy, you just read that one. Like, how did you literally just forget?"
We're on our minds are so many things. So we're down to the last 4.
Yeah, I mean we're 2 hours in, guys. Come on, cut us some slack. So
have we already been 2 hours?
Yes.
Oh yeah, yes we are. We're gonna go longer than last year.
Yeah, we're definitely going longer than last year. So all right, so actor in the leading role, we got Bradley Cooper, Coleman Domingo. Bradley Cooper in Maestro, Coleman Domingo in Rustin, Paul Giamatti in The Holdovers, Cillian Murphy in Oppenheimer, Jeffrey Wright for American Fiction. All of these fantastic. Coleman Domingo was absolutely fantastic in Rustin. Paul Giamatti really, I mean, this is probably the best movie I've ever seen Paul Giamatti in. But for me, the clear front runner is Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer. I mean, without a doubt.
Yeah, I think it's crazy that like even talking about Bradley Cooper, you can tell he put his heart and soul into that movie. Like director, like he made sure that he was in every part of it. I'm the director, I'm the actor, I'm the writer, I'm the producer. I'm gonna do everything I need to do to win an Oscar, and he is not gonna win it. Sorry, Bradley Cooper, it's not in the cards for you this year. And then Coleman Domingo and Jeffrey Wright kind of get lost in the shuffle, unfortunately. They both did fantastic performances, but the clear front runners, and this one's really, really hard because Cillian Murphy in Oppenheimer is a clear front runner as well. But like as soon as Cillian Murphy wins in one, Paul Giamatti wins in another awards. So like, where do you go for it? So like even looking at the other award shows, you have the Golden Globes both going to, in the drama category, Cillian Murphy, comedy for Paul Giamatti. When you go to the Critics' Choice Awards, they gave it the singular actor nomination, or the award went to Paul Giamatti. You go to the Screen Actors Guild Awards, you have Cillian Murphy. So where is it? Where is the win? I feel like it's really down to these two, and it's like, do you go more for the subtle comedic take, or do you go for more for the dramatic take? And I'm gonna agree with you. I think it's gonna be the slight edge for Cillian Murphy. And Oppenheimer would not be surprised and actually be very delighted if Paul Giamatti got it. But I think Cillian Murphy has the slight edge over Paul Giamatti on this one.
I agree. I agree. So we're locking it in. Actor leading role for Cillian Murphy.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Next, we have nominees for actress in a leading role. We have Annette Bening in Naiad, Lily Gladstone in Killers of the Flower Moon, Sandra Hula in Anatomy of a Fall. Sorry,
I don't know why you said it like that.
I'll say it normal. Sandra Hula in Anatomy of a Fall. Carey Mulligan in Maestro, and Emma Stone in Poor Things. We'll just take... Again, Naiad was a great movie. Annette Bening earned that nomination. I feel like a lot of people were surprised, again, that Margot Robbie was not nominated for Barbie, and we discussed that in a previous episode on maybe reasons why that didn't happen, because America Ferrera and Ryan Gosling was, but not Margot Robbie, and she was playing the title role. But I don't think I would take anybody out of this category to put Margot Robbie in. And that's just the hard part. There are only five slots, and I thought when I first saw this, and like, oh, Annette Bening would probably just got like a legacy nomination. But then you look at the movie, and you're like, that's an incredible performance.
Yes.
Sandra Hüller also did the same thing for Anatomy of a Fall. What a fantastic performance. And Carey Mulligan. If there was anyone that I might take out, it might be her. But she also did a fantastic performance.
Yeah.
In Maestro. But honestly, it comes down to two. And this was a tough one.
It is tough, but I think there's a clear winner. So for me, it's between Lily Gladstone and Sandra Hüller, with the slight edge going to Lily Gladstone. I think
Lily Gladstone is going to win it for multiple reasons. I mean, she was the standout in Killers of the Flower Moon. There's a lot of things I did not like about that movie. Her performance was definitely a standout for me. One of the things I really enjoyed about this movie. For me, I think it's Emma Stone coming out of with her performance, because her performance was literally transformative from start to finish. She is a completely different character coming out of that movie, and she had to literally start as an adolescent, as a baby, and then coming into this role as like a matured intellectual woman by the end of it. I thought her performance was one of the strongest I've ever seen from Emma Stone.
I agree with you. I agree with you. So I'm still going to lock it for Lily Gladstone, but I think I'm going to give my number 2 to Emma Stone. I think you make a good case for Emma Stone.
There's part of me that wants to give Emma Stone the award because she won it at the Golden Globes. Lily Gladstone won it at the Emma Stone won it for both the Golden Globes and the Critics' Choice. Lily Gladstone won it in the dramatic category at the Golden Globes, but at the Screen Actors Guild, it went to Lily Gladstone. With that, given the facts there, I'm going to give it to Lily Gladstone. Also, it's a more of a historical moment as well for a Native American actress to win it. That's just politics. It is what it is. Whether it's well deserved or not, that's the politics of the Oscars. And
she does deserve it, though. I mean, it is.
She does deserve it.
It is a fantastic performance.
Right. It's not just an arbitrary like, oh, we got to check a box so she can win it. No. She definitely deserved that win, and the wins that she's been getting as well. I think a close second, and I think for me the performance I enjoyed the most out of this category is Emma Stone. So for me, it's like a very close 2 for her, but I do think Lily Gladstone's going to take it at the end of the day.
Absolutely. All right, so we are locking it in for Lily Gladstone for leading actress. So we're down to the final 2.
I think, honestly, this one's an easy no-brainer for me.
Yeah, so we're
nominees.
Wait, you... Well, I think this one's me.
Oh, is it? Oh, my bad. Go ahead.
Yeah, because then you finish with directing.
Yeah, you're right. We keep forgetting. I
mean, and you finish because then you finish with Best Picture.
Yeah, that should make sense. Okay, go ahead.
God, we're new here. So, nominees for directing. We have Anatomy of a Fall for Justine Triet, Killers of the Flower Moon, Martin Scorsese, Oppenheimer, Christopher Nolan, Poor Things, Yorgos Lanthimos, and The Zone of Interest with Jonathan Glazer, clear frontrunner. I mean, Christopher Nolan for Oppenheimer. I mean, obviously, obvious winner.
Yeah, this one's a no-brainer for sure. As much as of a lock-in for Robert Downey Jr. and Oppenheimer for supporting actor, Christopher Nolan has been dominating in every single award show, and it is well deserved. This man should have won an Oscar years ago.
Yep, 100% agree.
And now he came out with this masterpiece. and he is getting his flowers. This is his time to get flowers. There's no question that he will win this. If we're going to give it to a secondary, which one would you do?
Justine Triet for Anatomy of a Fall.
That
would be my number 2.
I respect that. Honestly, I would go with Poor Things, Yorgos Lanthimos. I thought I pronounced that, butchered that one. I think he did a very unique take on it. But to your point, I think there was a lot of, like, part of it is direction, but I think more of the standouts go to some of the other awards that we talked about already for directing. Again, this is another award that Greta Gerwig, a lot of people feel like she should have been nominated for this, and I agree. I know when we first looked at these nominations, we feel like what's with the Zone of Interest? Should he gotten the nomination? A lot of people were surprised with his directing nom, Jonathan Glazer's, for the Zone of Interest. I feel like it's still up in the air. I feel like if I was going to take out one, it probably would have been that one to put in Barbie. Also, same argument. I would have taken that one out and put in Past Lives for Celine Song for her directing style for that movie too. So it's not saying that Greta Gerwig should have been in there. I do feel like that, if there was this last slot that you got to fill, like, that it was a hard choice to make. I also, if we're going to take another one out, maybe Killers of the Flower Moon, but it's also Martin Scorsese, and he can put together a really good film, and he did that.
Yes, he did.
But again, clear front runner, the winner, lock it in. It's going to be a Christopher Nolan, Oppenheimer, well-deserved win.
And the last one, Matthew. This is it.
Yes.
The final one.
All right, the kit and caboodle. As Ernesto would say, this is the meal. We talked about all the ingredients, but now we're going to come down to which one deserves the coveted award of Best Picture. So the nominees are American Fiction, Anatomy of a Fall, Barbie, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Past Lives, Poor Things, and The Zone of Interest. So Ernesto, we've all reviewed every one of these movies, and we had our piece with all of them. But now we're coming down to the nitty-gritty of it all. Let's start taking away before we start having a conversation. Which ones are we taking away that are like there's no chance we're gonna win it?
So I'm gonna give you the 5 that I would take away, and it will not. I'll give you that. So I would take away Zone of Interest.
Yeah.
I would take away Maestro.
Yep.
I would take away Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yeah.
And I would take away Barbie.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't. There's no chance you think Barbie's gonna take Best Picture.
To me, I would be very surprised if that movie took Best Picture.
Fair enough. I will continue from what you were saying, and I will take away American Fiction. I don't think it has the legs to become Best Picture. I do feel like there's some legs there for Barbie, but I don't think it's going to happen. I agree with you, but there are some legs there. The Holdovers, such a great overall movie. I hate to take that one away. Past Lives is also a fantastic movie. Did we talk about its script? No, we did. And we went with another film. Yeah. I feel like that's its strongest contender, given that it was only nominated for 2 things. With that, I just don't see it getting for Best Picture, unfortunately.
I mean, we know what we're dancing around.
I know we're
the clear winner for Best Picture.
The clear front runner is Oppenheimer.
Yeah, come on.
It's been dominating in, like, it won Best Picture for Golden Globes. It won Best Picture for Critics' Choice. It won Best Ensemble Cast for the Screen Actors Guild. It won Outstanding Producer and the Producers Guild, and it won Best Director for the Directors Guild. Front runner, it's most likely going to win.
Yeah.
It's honestly it's kind of a lock in for Best Picture. If there was going to be an upset though, where would the second choice be? I feel like that's a more difficult question.
Oh, my number 2 is clear. Anatomy of a Fall.
That's fair. I know why I even thought about that.
Like that's not even, to me. There's no comment. If it's not Oppenheimer, it's Anatomy of a Fall.
Interesting. Yeah, I might agree with you there, just given everything about this movie, the fact that it was nominated for Best Picture as well. It did not get a chance in the international category, so it has a little more legs to come in for the Best Picture category. I do think that The Zone of Interest is probably going to take international film, but it's not going to take Best Picture. That's why I'm taking it away. Killers of Flower Moon and Maestro, that's not happening. Past Lives has some life there, but it probably won't. Poor Things is a strong secondary option for me because of everything that movie did. And I think just out of pure delight, I think the Holdovers is also a fun option to play with as well, is that can just come out of nowhere and take it.
True.
But I mean, this is just creating conversation. The last it's going to be Oppenheimer taking Best Picture. The thing is, how many awards is it going to win? Because I think that's going to be the cake there. I think we've already listed like editing, cinematography, picture, director, supporting actor,
lead actor,
screenplay, adapted screenplay potentially. I just listed 7 out of 23.
It could.
It could. It's definitely going to sweep, and it's well deserved. I might just watch it again. Just for the sake of me watching.
Yeah, I'm gonna finish watching it again before that one.
Yeah,
I might actually also watch Barbie again too, just so I can, like maybe I need to rewatch it to
get a better appreciation for it.
Yeah,
or have a better understanding of where your thoughts lie on it for the most part.
True.
But yeah, I think it's gonna be Oppenheimer's year, and it's well deserved for Christopher Nolan to kind of take his flowers and his bow, and like he also never won Best Picture. So
not for the did the Dark Knight not win?
Nope, no, it did not. And I don't think Tenet ever got it. Inception was also nominated, did not take it either. Interstellar might have been nominated, but also didn't get it either. This is a man who has never won an Oscar, and he is about to win a whole bunch in 2 weeks and a week and a half. He's got about a week and a bit, but he's gonna, I guess by the time about a week. Sorry, about a week. When the Oscars are, and he's gonna win his Oscars now for sure. And if he doesn't, it's gonna be a big shocker.
Yeah.
But Oppenheimer for the lock, Ernesto.
Oppenheimer for the lock.
And there you go, everybody. That is our Oscars predictions for 2024. What a fun conversation.
It was fun, man. I had a great time. This season was obviously our best yet. Because we were able to get to everything, and we were able to have a full conversation about everything that was nominated. So I'm looking forward to the Oscars this year.
Now I'm fully prepared.
Yeah.
Now the next 10 days you're on easy street.
Yeah, you can rewatch something that you needed to. If you want to rewatch it, like Oppenheimer or Barbie, or like this is the time.
Yeah, this is the time for us to do so. But yeah, we do so much work for this episode, and I feel like this is like the best gratification out of all the episodes that we do because of the amount of work we put into it.
Yeah.
And like now we have this full-fledged conversation that we can share with everybody, and it's to me such a good feeling, especially now that we were able to complete all the watches as well.
It's fun. It's something that we enjoy doing, like obviously.
Yeah, it's true. We wouldn't like we waking up early in the morning. It's like I gotta finish this movie because of this deadline. And so, but yeah, we do it for fun. We do it because we love to do it. We've been doing our Oscars predictions episodes since we started this podcast, and every year we've only been getting better. So now, Ernesto, the goal is that we've done the impossible for the most part. We've watched everything. Now we got to keep it up year after year to get everything.
Now we've set a precedent.
I know that's gonna be hard. That's gonna be the hardest thing to do. But I mean, I think part of it is that we were able to keep up with a lot of the early predictions that were coming out, like especially in the fall, and like watching those movies. Because if you think about it, like we thought about Past Lives, and like we watched that one pretty early. We watched Anatomy of a Fall pretty early. We watched that when I was in theaters.
Yep.
There was a lot of these that came that was like down the pipe that was like, it could be, and so we did watch it, and then it came up like, all right, look at all these nominations. Like our hunches were pretty good. And now I think we can say that every Best Picture nomination has its own episode.
Absolutely. That's right.
Yeah. So that's just exciting to say as well. But anyway, there you go. That is all the show we have for you guys this week. Ernesto, tell our lovely listeners what they can look forward to next week.
Next week, kind of on the same vein of kind of setting up for next year's Oscars, at least what we think. Something that won 6, I believe we looked up, was it 6? Is Dune Part 1, which came out in 2021, won 6 Oscars. So now we're coming upon opening weekend for Dune Part 2, and early reviews are incredible. Like calling it a masterpiece. Denis Villeneuve is one of my favorite directors. If you've ever seen Prisoners,
Prisoners so good.
Fucking crazy ass movie. Arrival.
So good.
Arrival is a movie that just sticks with me internally. That is like one of my all-time favorite movies is Arrival. I think it's a fantastic movie. So I'm really looking forward. I loved Dune Part 1. I'm getting ready. I'm going to rewatch the first one. Literally, I was like, you know what? This was before I heard anything. I was like, maybe I'll wait to book my ticket. So I went to try to find tickets in like every theater. It's completely booked. It's got like maybe 1 or 2 showings, even for the middle of the afternoon, which is saying a lot for, just in the middle of the day. Like you would figure at night, and even at night, there were signs that already saying like the theaters are already almost full. So I think we're expecting some big numbers for opening weekend. And we have a special guest coming on Matt, you have touted as a Dune expert.
Yeah, no, he's a Dune nerd, 100%. He has multiple copies of the books, and so my good friend Chandler is coming on the show, first time to the podcast, and I was like, when we're doing Dune, it's like he has to come on because he's the biggest Dune nerd that I know, and so he's gonna have a lot of insight. He's read the books, he has multiple copies of the books, different editions of it, so he's gonna be in here. Has a lot to say about it, stuff that we probably have no idea what was going on, and he's like, oh, that person over there, that means something. It's like, please tell us, because sometimes Denis Villeneuve does his own thing, and I'm like, I don't know what you're doing, man, but I want to know.
But I'm all about it.
I want to know all about it. And so yeah, I'm also gonna be watching Dune Part 1, rewatching that, and then we're gonna be diving into Dune Part 2, and I'm excited for it. They're calling it a masterpiece. Like, I want to know what everyone's talking about right now.
And also, I was watching an interview with him. He said one of the things he was trying to do when he made the movie was make it its own thing, so that you don't need to watch Dune Part 1. Is that Dune 2 is its own self-contained story, but it does add value, obviously, if you've already seen Part 1. But that Part 2 will be its own thing that narratively you should be able to enjoy by itself from start to finish.
Okay, I like that. I like that very much. All right. So with that, if you come back next week to listen to that, but along the way, follow us on our social media channels on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok at Box Office Bingers, our X and Letterboxd page at Box Office Binger, and our Instagram and Threads page at Box Office_Bingers. If you want all the fun stuff that in addition to listening to our episodes, you can follow us on our social media channels. Go to our YouTube page, where you can see our lovely faces and our lovely graphics that's companion to these episodes. Our TikTok and Instagram page have all of our videos, our reels, our shorts, all that stuff to be more engaged with you guys. And so just in case you don't listen to the whole thing, you can get little snippets to maybe some of the good stuff that we have to offer here. And yeah, it's such a great episode. I'm glad we were able to do this every year. Thank you for listening and maybe caring about the Oscars as much as we do, and kind of hearing our predictions. Like I said, hopefully you can win those $5 for your predictions going in there. It's like, at least you have a leg up on some of your predictions.
Absolutely.
As well. And also look forward to our probably it's gonna be a bonus episode. We like to recap the Oscars, the winners, the biggest moments, the highlights, all that stuff. We're gonna try to record that as soon as possible, shortly after the Oscars, and so you can enjoy that. And then as well as we're probably gonna get that Dune episode first, and then we're gonna do the Oscars recap. I don't know, we haven't decided yet, but regardless,
see what happens.
We'll see what happens. Those are the next 2 episodes you can look forward to for sure. And then we're gonna have a busy March too. March is gonna be stacked.
It's already stacking up. Guests and fun times.
Guests. It's all there. So thank you for listening to us just talking about movies. Really do appreciate it. Come back next week for more movie fun. You're not going to regret it. And for that, I've been your host, Matt Diaz.
Been Ernesto Santos. See ya.